Well, I say. Welcome, fellas and filettis, to the greatest goddamn show on the internet, maybe. It's Gabbin' and Games. Good to see everybody for July 1st. Oh, my God, halfway through the year. It's been, well, think about this for a minute. It has been, we are halfway through, and the question now becomes, do you have a game of the year yet? Do you have something you're loving yet? I mean, I certainly do. I certainly do. I got a couple of things. It's been a pretty goddamn good year so far. I think, you know, I look at, obviously, I mean, Dragon's Dogma was great. Not as it didn't stick with me as much as I thought it would, but that's been great. There's been a bunch of stuff, actually. And yes, I did watch the Capcom stream. We will talk about that today. I will tell you, yesterday, if you didn't join us live, you missed out on a hootenanny of a good time. Me and John Garvin, the creator of Siphon Filter and Days Gone and Uncharted Golden Abyss, you know, we did a 4-hour catch-up conversation about games and the industry and writing, and it was pretty goddamn good. Right now, if you're a member, you can watch it. It'll be free next week for everybody. We also did an I Love the Weird on Saturday, and then we kicked off a brand new series over on the Patreon and here on YouTube called War Stories, where I will be diving into old Sony stories and sort of telling the history of those games and my days when PlayStation was just getting started. There's a 1 episode up now. There'll be a new episode going up this week. So if you've ever considered a membership here at any tier, now is the time on either Patreon or here. If you like the podcast, I would go with the Patreon. If you like the video and you like being here live and chatting, I would go with the YouTube. They offer different things. Unfortunately, YouTube does a terrible job on their podcast. If they didn't, then I would just do everything here on YouTube. Jaffe, go watch Sacred Symbols. Colin schools your ideology of Stellar Blade not being a success. There's nothing he can school. It sold 1 million copies, Addy Pie, which is great for a game that cost, I guess, 50 million units or $50 million to make. For what it is, excellent. I don't hate Stellar Blade. I liked what I played of it, but I'm sorry, but 1 million copies You know, for a first party title, I get it. It's second party, but even so, it was marketed and it's exclusive or timed exclusive. You know, $1 million is more than fine for that franchise. It's going to continue with the sequel and a PC version. But yeah, no, I don't think $1 million is like, oh my God, it's the next big thing. No, it's not. HellDivers. I mean, HellDivers has lost, I think they said today they're down to 10% of their users that they started with. But I mean, that's not a knock against HellDivers. I don't play it enough. I've played it like 4 times, so I don't have enough education with it to suggest why it's, you know, everybody's got an opinion on it. I don't fucking know. But what I'll say is I enjoyed it. I'm sure it's been profitable. I think it's going to run for Sony for a good long time. But is it the next Fortnite? Probably not. But I think at this point, how often are we going to get there? We've talked about that. I mean, I haven't checked the numbers. If somebody wants to check the numbers, at least for Steam, for the relaunch of Multiversus, we look at those every week. I didn't get a chance today. But that seems to be not flatlining, but it's lagging behind Brawlhalla, for God's sake. So, you know, it's really hard to make a dent in that space. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So I have topics today. Today, though, the point is today is mostly a free chat show. It is. I want to stick to video games. You know, we did a bunch of weird topics on Saturday. I did a 4-hour podcast with Colin and Gene Park and Chris Reagan over on Constellation that just went up today. It was all about debates, the presidential debates. If you guys really want to talk about anything other than games or movies or pop culture, I can do that, but it's going to have to come from y'all's demands because I would rather just stay focused on games. And I definitely have some topics I want to get with you guys. It sounds sexy. Ha! Oh, I don't feel good. Yeah. So anyway, whatever. So we'll see where things go. We got Kirkland Gray down there in the chat. We got Ravnos. I'll bring those guys in just a second. Ninja Squirrel says PlayStation doesn't have the capital to compete with Xbox long term. Xbox is leading the business with all their expansion and vision. PlayStation is a generation behind with much smaller bank. At the moment, you're right. I think they have a great deal of talent over there, more than Xbox has. But I definitely, as I've said numerous times, you know, they aren't currently. They don't. You know, it's kind of like. You can appreciate guerrilla warfare, but when you're going up against nukes and we're, you know, metaphorically we're talking money, you know, I think it's going to be really hard for them unless they do partner with a bigger group of people or they just get some more money. Gee, did anything important happen in the news? Oh, well, yeah, Bandito, it did. But I mean, if you got, again, if the chat wants to talk politics in the Supreme Court, we can do that. But I mean, really? Okay. Jaffe, what do you think about voice actors portraying bad actors in video games and taking jobs from actual real world? I don't know what that even means at this point. So just play video games, says Brad, to avoid the problem of society crashing. Let someone invested deal with it. It's not entirely wrong what you're saying. I mean, there is a point where, and I have gone from being and I'm still politically engaged and all that stuff, but there is a point where it's just like, you know, you guys win. I cannot compete with the machine that is just trillionaires and their companies, and you win. So you know what? I'm just going to sit here and lose myself. I get it, man. I absolutely get it. There are days where I get it more than others. Today is one such day. And I don't mean that because of the Supreme Court and I don't want to get into that. But it's just, you know, there comes a point where it's like, you know what? You guys have rigged the game. And so fine, I'm going to play this game where even though, come on now, even though I'm going to fight the fight and fight the power within reason, I'm good. Fuck you. You win. I'm going to go play Elden Ring, you idiots. That's why Jaffe wants to do DMT, so he never needs to think about society, just him and God alone all day. Fine with me. Jay, thank you for the super chat. He says, hey, What standout exclusive has been released on Xbox recently? They're so mired in identity politics. I don't agree with you, J Lord. I appreciate it. Xbox's games are mired in identity politics. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, Forza Horizon wasn't, and Starfield wasn't. I'm trying to think what else they've put out. I mean, to be fair, they haven't put out a lot of stuff I've wanted to play. I played about 2 hours of Hell, whatever the fuck that game is called, that came and went. Think about that game. 7 years in development, came and went. Nobody cares. Those fucking executives at Microsoft don't know what they're doing, folks. They should have caught that. They should have said, "You're not putting this out? I don't care how long you spent. It's terrible. It's a terrible game." I mean, it's not terrible, but it's so benign and forgettable. And it's got such a terrible opening. So you got to be more specific, J Lord, but I appreciate the super chat. Okay. JJ Sayan says, many games as service games made before 2020 were successful. Well, sure. But the problem is, you know, the competition has just gotten staggeringly fierce in that space. And what's really been, we've talked about this, but I got to tell you, man, think about the emotional crash that you would experience if you are on PalWorld or HellDivers or maybe even Multiversus, right? That you're one of these teams that you think you fucking nailed it because it's such a goddamn rarity. It's like winning the lottery, lightning in a bottle. But now the industry has shifted with games as a service to the point that unless you plan for that obsolescence at the very beginning to come pretty soon, you got to hit lightning twice. Lightning's got to strike twice. You got to hit it first, and then you got to sustain it. So yeah, before 2020, maybe it's just because there weren't that many games to take your time. But I'm still giving probably, I don't know how many hours a week I'll play Marvel Snap. That's my service-based game, and I will play that more than, you know, I'm not going away from that. I'll give them $10 my money every month, and I'm happy to do it. Thankfully, says Eddie T, Elden Ring has no politics. If it were made by a Western studio, they'd say the game was made as a response to police brutality. I think, honestly, Eddie T, if Elden Ring were made by a Western studio, they would say that it was made as a response to the poor education in America, because that game does such a terrible job. I figured it out, by the way. I want to talk to you guys about this, because this is a news story that came out, and then as soon as I'm done with this tale, Ravenos I'll bring in Kirkland Gray, see what they have to say. And before I do that, I want to show you something on the screen, but I want to talk, I'm not going to talk Erd Tree and all that, but there was a news story that came out about the director of Elden Ring that I think really kind of made this very clear to me as it relates to the design. But I want to show you something first. There's a new game in town that I have designed, and it is, well, I would say it's sublime, and here it is right here. If you look at your screen, what you're looking at here is a video game box that has been pixelized up to 100%. It doesn't matter to me if you guys want to play or not, but here's what's going to happen. The first person to guess what this box is going to get one of my free codes for CONCORD that comes out next month, or actually this month for the beta. I don't know how long. I've pre-ordered it. I don't know how long those codes are good for, but you will certainly be able to jump in 1 or 2 weeks, okay? Here's how, there's no way you're going to be able to tell what this is, and trust me, I've taken it into ChatGPT, I've taken it into Dolly, I've said, hey, de-res this, figure out what this is. It can't do it. It can't do it. I got about 6 resolution increases on this, but the resolution's only going to increase with either 10 ticks. For every member that joins, that's 2 ticks. For every super chat above $2, that's 1 tick. Doesn't matter to me. Don't fucking do it. Don't fucking do it. Or do it. But that's how this game's going to get played. So right now we're at 0 ticks. Let's see how far we get on this particular show. We don't have to do it all on this show. It's whenever it's ready. That CONCORD thing isn't coming out for a couple of weeks. So Okay, here we go. I want to tell you about this Miyazaki story, though, real quick, because I thought this was pretty interesting. He says, I suck at video games, but I still got through Elden Ring by using every scrap of aid that the game offers. So here's the thing on this, and this is I've repeated this story a couple of times over the last week because it has been so impactful to me. Elden Ring is absolutely my favorite video game of all time. And people say to me, but Jaffe, if it's your favorite video game, why haven't you finished it? It can't be, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it got to a point, it was just too hard for me. And I was playing it the other night on stream, and I think it was Awesome Tatum, who was just like, look, let's respec your character. Because you clearly don't understand what the fuck you're doing when it comes to where you should put your stats. Because my level is like, I'm 152 level, okay? And I did that. And suddenly, it's not that I'm so OP that the game is like not even worth playing, but suddenly I'm back in it because I can explore, and it's not every time I encounter a boss, it's 2 months of like, I don't fucking know how am I going to beat this, right? My stats were just really, really bad. Okay, so let's just say that I am probably as poor of a game player as Miyazaki, and I think that's probably the only thing we have in common. But that said, though, I would cop to that. Not a problem for me. And he's able to get through. I want you to understand this now, because a lot of people talk about the difficulty issue with Elden Ring. And I think this should really silence the people who say Miyazaki doesn't want a difficulty mode. He probably doesn't, but he probably doesn't. I don't know if I don't know if they totally understand why this game has worked in a lot of ways. Because here's what he's really saying. If you believe this, he says, I suck at this, but I got through the game by using every scrap of aid. But where Elden Ring absolutely fails, and I will absolutely defend this position unless somebody gives me evidence to the contrary, Elden Ring absolutely fails in explaining the systems. It's not that the systems are too complicated. It's that they are hidden behind terrible communication. It is boring. It is lots of text. They're hidden in menus and this, that, and the other. And look, I'm going to tell you, I got this like $60 strategy guide, beautiful art and all that. I don't mean the fact that it hides, if you don't join the Volcano Manor, here's what's going to happen. I understand things like that and the narrative and the branching, that's for you to discover. But I just mean the simple things. Like, I want to build a character that excels at this. And it's like, oh, this weapon scales and these are an alphabet ranking. Well, not everybody knows like A, B, C, D, then it goes to S. And it's like, wait, S is the best or S is lower than... I understand. I played Devil May Cry. I know in Japan, S is a good thing. But I'm saying it is rich with failure of good communication. So here's why I bring this up. Because if Miyazaki is going, I suck at this game, I don't want to add a difficulty mode because I know all of these scraps of aid are available, then ultimately what he's saying is without those scraps of aid, the game is, it's only for the get good generation. It's not for people who want to kind of solve it with these scraps of aid. But since the scraps of aid are historically complained about, and if you don't believe me, let me give you an example. This launched with the DLC. It was an update to Elden Ring, and I was excited for it because the names of things in Elden Ring when you unlock something are really kind of esoteric and whatnot. So I would unlock something killing a boss. I'm like, wait, where's that thing I just unlocked? So here's what they did. They went in and they put a pretty typical thing that most games have now, which is there's a menu that all your recent things have an exclamation point on them, and they're all kind of grouped together. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. And I've been making great use of it. But I knew about this. I didn't know it. You have to go turn this on right? They put this thing in to make it easier for people, but you have to know to go into the menu and then find the right menu item and then find the right sub menu item and click this name to turn this on, called new inventory features or whatever the fuck it's called, right? They are terrible at this when it comes. Now, here becomes the real question here. And I think these guys are, and by the way, it's not just there. You know, oftentimes this game feels unnecessarily confusing. There's lots of topics and posts like this on the internet, so it's not just me, okay? But here's what I think is really interesting about the situation they're in. And I'm going to make this sound dramatic. It may not be this. It could be, though. It seems like it might be. But if you're the guys at From Software, and if you look at the massive success of Elden Ring, and their previous game, if you don't count Demon's Souls Remake, is Bloodborne, which is sitting at about 5 million copies. It's a success, but it's not some mega thing. People love it, but it's a cult. It's a passionate cult hit. It's not a big, massive fucking hit. Maybe it will be when Blue Point puts out the remake. That whatever. Okay, but the point being, though, is that now they're in this really interesting position. They have basically made really an adult Zelda, is open world Zelda. Miyazaki is one of my favorite game designers of all time. He's my top 3 easily. Phenomenal human being when it comes to his work. But now I think you saw this because of the patch, they are trying to figure out who is their audience, right? So if you go, just keep doing what you're doing From Software, well, that's not working, because if it was, they wouldn't have gone back and made some changes to the Erd Tree patch like within a day. And that review bombing is already improving over on Steam. And they get into a really, you know, if Miyazaki learns over the next game how to make every scrap of aid that the game offers, as he says here, clear, and they hire a great consultancy firm like Sweet Baby Inc. No, I'm kidding. But if they hire a great kind of communication user interface expert on the team to make all this clear, suddenly the question becomes, are you going to piss off the hardcore? Because there is this badge of honor. There is this sense of gatekeeping. And suddenly, look, I would have had this game done a year and a half ago if I knew how all the systems worked. If you explain well how the systems work, that difficulty curve drops drastically. And then you lose the cult standing. And then is that worth it? Or is it better to kind of just stay intentionally confusing in order to kind of, and just keep your budgets where they are so you can keep being the cult hit? Because if suddenly this becomes clear as day how to make a build and what these things all do, and you're going to lose that badge of honor a lot of you people seem to really give a fuck about. I think it'll lose some charm. It's full of tutorials, says Eddie T. Yeah, well, I mean, that's my question to you guys, right? I mean, because like, yeah, I have only fallen in love with I mean, I want you to think about this. I'm not blowing smoke at my butthole. I'm a relatively smart human, but I'm not like crazy smart. But I'm smart enough that I should be able to play a goddamn video game. And the only time I fell in love with From Software and Miyazaki's work was after I played them on stream. First starting with Bloodborne, then Demon's Souls Remake, and now Elden Ring, and the chat helped me out and explained it to me. I remember walking around the environment in Bloodborne with the doll, the hub, and going, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing with this thing? Like, you don't even know how to really get into the game in a lot of ways. So I am very curious, if you're those guys, how do you define success at this point? It's very strange to me. It's very interesting to me. So I'm that's on my mind. I want to hear your thoughts on that. It has nothing to do with anything. The game is pure trash, but Feast, it's not though. I mean, I'll read your comments if they're amusing like that because it makes you not seem smart. But to say Elden Ring is pure trash, what's the matter with you? It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous concept that the games are pure trash. They may not be for you. Look, Tears of the Kingdom wasn't for me, but I'm not going to walk around and say it was pure trash. No, I don't agree with you, Brad. Brad says it's a wall of difficulty. You can get the same confidence talking to one friend while playing. But there's a difficulty. There's difficulty like I need better skill or I need to figure out how to solve the puzzle. And then there's just like intentionally confusing, right? One is difficult and one is just bad design, frankly. Hello, Hoxton. I mean, I do think it's two things. I do think the game is worth saving. It's too difficult. Don't play it. It's also such a rich world. Oh, I agree. I love it. I absolutely love it. And here's the other thing. Armored Core, what was it? Armored Core 6 came out. I don't know what the sales are on that, but I don't believe, I mean, I certainly haven't heard people talking about it. I don't believe it's some kind of big hit that's tearing the world apart. And my guess is they're probably going, maybe it was too fucking hard. Maybe it was too fucking hard. Let's bring in Ravnos. Then I'm going to bring in Kirkland Gray. Ravnos, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, hold on. God damn it.
All right,
I hate this new iPad. No, first I wanted to talk about something else, but you brought up
it's
point.
Free chat. Hey.
Okay.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Free chat. Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I'm in game right now. If you literally in Elden Ring, and this has been there since day one, if you go to equipment and you're like, oh, let me click on my weapons. I don't know which weapon to use. What's good for my character? If you hit the touchpad on the DualSense.
Why am I looking at just your head?
It's not my head. That's a fan.
Okay. Anyway, keep going.
I know. I meant to like turn off the camera.
I know. If you hit the touchpad, it'll say help. Where'd he go? Okay, I'm going to bring in Kirkland Gray, then I'll bring in Ravnos later. Kirkland Gray, how you doing?
What's going on?
I saw you put a video up today, The Last Remnant. You reviewed it. You gave it an 8 out of 10.
Not even remotely the same game.
The Last Descendant or something.
The Last Remnant is like a Square game that came out in like 2018 or something.
The goddamn Last Remnant, right? That's what you played. What'd you play today? What'd you put up the thing for?
The first Descendant.
Okay, and you liked it. You gave it an 8 out of 10.
The first Descendant.
They're terrible titles. I'm sorry. Yeah. Just like the new demo that just dropped from Capcom today. When I played it,
Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess.
Horrible fucking title. What the? It's like they fired the guy from Square that named
Immortals of Avium,
so
Banishers,
bad.
Ghosts of New Eden.
Terrible. But anyway, yeah. So you gave it an 8 out of 10. You liked it, and this is not out yet, or it is?
It's out
it's
at
out
3 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay, and it's a looter shooter MMO kind of thing with like that's the gist of it.
Yeah, like it's another Destiny, another Division. Warframe is probably the most one-to-one comparison.
Okay,
but I don't play Warframe, so I can't really speak to that. But it's definitely in that type of wheelhouse of like Warframe and Destiny.
Okay, and it's by what's the company? It's some Asian company that does
Nexon.
Nexon, right?
Which they're one of those companies like NetEase and God, there's another one.
Big.
They used to be big into mobile, and they're kind of moving over
and all that shit. A lot of free to play stuff comes out of Asia. So, do you think it has the ability, like we were talking about, whether it's HellDivers or Multiversus? Do you think it has the ability to make a name and a place for itself amongst gamers, or do you think that void has been filled by Warframe and by Destiny 2?
Well, I think the fundamental difference of what we're talking about is that it's AAA. So like that's a difference from this and then something like Multiversus or HellDivers, which by all rights, both of those are like basically AA games in terms of the scope and the player base that they were expecting. I think
when you say AAA, when you say scope, do you mean like quality of production, or do you mean there's so much stuff to do and explore in the world?
I mean quality of production, I think.
Okay.
We're looking at like high-end Unreal 5 graphics, higher performance. I mean, this is a next-gen title. I think it has kind of that generic feeling that you alluded to on Twitter, and that I don't necessarily disagree with. That like a Warframe or something does. It has a little bit of a free-to-play feel. It has even maybe a little bit of a I wouldn't say it has a mobile feel, but it has a feeling like it has come from a mobile developer, or again, one of those like Asian developers that like makes a specific type of game. It has kind of echoes of that, but in all rights, like they're definitely aiming for a very visually stunning, marketably next gen, and just all in all, like I think they're aiming pretty high for like the amount of people that they're. I would compare this more to like maybe like Diablo. I think like they're looking to get people in on day one. That might be rating it a little too high, but I think that just comes down to IP. Like, I
Okay,
think they're trying to do as much as they can with an IP that nobody, is invested in at all.
Is the as the kids say, is the lore, is it rich? Is it a potentially great IP, or is it as at an IP level as generic as it looks?
I don't know that anybody is going to care about the lore per se, but what they're doing a very good job of, at least as a preliminary endeavor, is I think when you go into a genre like this and you're trying to occupy some of the like ongoing online space, you've got to do something new and interesting or like innovate with the formula. And oftentimes what we see with games that are successful that do that, they'll incorporate elements from other successful games in maybe an adjacent or different genre into the genre that their game is in. And so like what I think they're successfully doing so far is they're taking the concept of like the hero shooter and characters from the hero shooter, such as an Overwatch or an Apex Legends. Or you could even also compare it to like these like gacha style games with these like very iconic cosplayable characters like a Genshin Impact or something like that, where like people are like wanting to roll for these characters. They're going to Comic-Cons as these characters. They're taking both of those type of elements, like the Apex and the Genshin like MiHoYoverse thing, and they're creating these characters that like really all they really amount to in this genre is like Hunter, Titan, and Warlock in like Destiny.
And it's PvE, correct?
Just PvE, yes.
So this comes out worldwide at 3 a.m. What Pacific time, but it's all launching the same moment.
No, it's like you're talking about release. It's like staggered.
Okay, but by this time tomorrow, it'll be playable all over the world. Probably here in America. Okay.
Yeah.
Is
By
it
this
PC
time,
only?
for sure.
Is it PS5? Is it Xbox?
No, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, and it's crossplay, I assume. Okay. Okay. Well, I what do you think about CONCORD? I mean, I know because that's PvP. The initial launch trailer, most people were kind of like, but the previews, I don't know if you've read them, but the previews have been pretty good. They say the shooting feels really good. Time will tell, but it's definitely a very, very well-made, competent Overwatch clone, right?
So my co-host on Reforge Gaming this morning was just taking it to task, and
Why?
I really don't understand why. I think he feels like it's.
What did he not like about it?
I think he thinks it looks very generic. And he comes from Destiny, like he was known as a very big Destiny streamer. So I think he just feels like it's kind of like a blatant ripoff, and it's like very iterative. My counter to that,
he thinks it's a ripoff of Destiny or Overwatch.
Yes, and it definitely is. So it's Destiny gameplay. Like it's literally the three guys that were like the leads on Destiny PvP in Destiny 1.
And they also got some Halo guys, right? And some Call of Duty guys on the team too.
You would know better than me, honestly. But yeah, so it's that team. You can definitely see it, especially like with the revolver or the hand cannon. It looks exactly like using a hand cannon Destiny, which I'm personally psyched about. And I think my co-host, as somebody that has played so much Destiny and like obviously never disliked that game, at least as far as like what the gameplay experience of it was, is a little bit tainted there, because like for me, I'm somebody that knows, and a lot of people feel this way, that like Destiny can be very, very intimidating for new players and even returning players, because it has so many of those like MMO light type of systems, and it's largely built to be a PvE focused game.
Right, but they do have the arenas, right, where you can fight.
Yeah. So you go in and you're like, oh, what are these shards? And I've got these quests and I got to do the magic transfuser to get better gear and like whatever. And like, it's just a lot. Like I've seen so many articles of people being like, I tried to come back to Destiny. I couldn't do it. And like, I think there's something to be said for that. That's like being undervalued by people that play Destiny or enjoy Destiny or are willing to kind of like come back to it, on an interval type basis. I think that there's something to be said for a game that you can just download and start playing, and it has that type of PvP gameplay.
About, and I know in the chat I'm seeing Brett Moore say, I'll try the beta. I mean, there's an open beta free that comes, I think, 1 or 2 weeks after the one that comes if you pre-order.
Which you can pre-order. People don't know this because physical media is dead, but you can just pre-order at GameStop for $5, get in the closed beta, and then go cancel your pre-order if you don't like it.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's good. See, look what happens. Kirkland shows up, saves you some ducats. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, but the $40 thing is interesting. I mean, maybe they've just been spoiled by HellDivers, and they're like, hey, we can make this work. I just can't imagine, like I've said before, when that thing comes out almost right behind or right before Marvel Snap, which is free.
Rivals.
Kind of the Rivals. Whatever. Same fucking thing. It's different, but it's Overwatch with Marvel.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know if it's a smart. I mean, they can always just drop the price. I'm assuming they've got a switch in all these games now, where if it's like, okay, free to play, boys. They hit a switch. It was built in, it's baked into the DNA of that fucking game at this point. I'm sure HellDivers is the same.
I'm really surprised that they're not angling to make this. They did this with like Stray and a couple other games that I can't think of. I can't believe they're not doing a day and date PS Plus thing. Or they could even do, I think it comes out like the 20th or the 23rd or something like that. There might be, I'm not sure. It's early 20th. Type date. Yeah. Why not have the $40 for like if you want to get it in play, and then for like free games for September, then if you have a PS Plus subscription, you get it or something like that.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know. So what I remember, and again, things have changed so much since I was at Sony. So I'm not saying this has been improved or worsened, but a lot of times, they're different departments, right? So the people who are doing the PSN thing and the PS Plus, they're not the same as the developer guys or the producers of that studio. So maybe they're like, they don't just see the value of it in one of those departments. I have no idea, but I mean, I agree. But again, maybe that was the plan and they got so, holy shit, HellDivers worked. Because I thought HellDivers was a terrible trailer. HellDivers 2, I thought they did a terrible job exciting people for it. Oh,
you mean the original one that's like
no,
familiar or like whatever, like when his family like gets murdered?
I mean the HellDivers 2 trailer.
Yes, when he's like, why, or like whatever, and his family gets like brutally massacred.
Like generic.
No, dude, people love that trailer.
Troopers
You're on the outside looking in on that one. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, but so let's put it this way then. I thought that game looks as generic as this game at a conceptual level. I don't mean that the game is bad. It doesn't have to be a great concept to be a great game. But for me to go off and spend $40, but clearly people were willing. Maybe they think that's going to happen again. I don't know. Okay. Anything else, Kirkland? What's going on? People make funny in the chat. I don't like that, Kirkland Gray. What's that about?
I don't know. You have a mean chat. If I'm gonna
they
be
are.
honest.
A lot of them are mean. I think a lot of them have small penises, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. There's nothing wrong with having a small penis, but some people get they're bothered by that. They really think it
can't
matters.
Relate.
I can't relate to having a small penis, and I don't mean that.
You kicking me out? What? I thought we were going to talk some games, man.
Well, we are talking games. I mean, you can stay on a little bit. You can stay on, I want to move on with the show though. But stick around.
Yeah.
Stay
we got a lot going on. We got some. We got a Capcom thing today, right?
Oh, I'm going to bring in Ravnos real quick. Let's see what Ravnos wants to talk about.
Do it.
Ravnos, what's going on? Are you back?
He wanted to correct you on Elden Ring.
Yeah, what's happening?
We don't have to talk Elden Ring. You want to talk the original?
It's free chat Monday, baby. Whatever you want to fucking talk about.
So and I'm not like saying you're wrong, but
Avatar, man.
One of the complaints about the new God of War that you've said and most people say, oh, it's angry or sad dad simulator. Wasn't Kratos
I never called it that. But
wasn't the original story that Kratos was like, "Ooh, I need power. Help me, Ares. Give me power." And he's like, "Cool, dude. You're a badass Spartan warrior. Take some power." Haha. By the way, you're gonna go insane and rage and murder your wife and daughter. So it's weird how people are like, dude, they ruined Kratos. They made him a sad dad. Kratos was a sad dad in the first game.
You're mistaking specifics of plot with the way the plot is communicated, right? So
true.
You can, any movie that has
but
anything.
Didn't he kill his family because of Ares?
It was.
That's the thing, though. He wasn't sad. He
was mad.
Right. You're dealing with maturation of a human being.
Regardless of him being sad or mad. you can have like, okay, take an action movie like with Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hunt with Mission Impossible may take a moment in a scene or two to mourn the wife who died in Mission Impossible 3 or whichever the one that J.J. Abrams directed, right? But it doesn't color the entire experience. It's still a fun action summer movie, and it's got a character that's got a little pathos. That's different than like suddenly Mission Impossible becomes, directed by, the person who directed, I'm trying to think of a really sad, dramatic movie or something.
I get what you're saying, but
so
hear me out.
so you're confusing the plot with the way the plot is expressed.
Yeah, because didn't Kratos want to kill all the Greek gods because of them meddling and causing him to kill his wife and daughter?
No,
it was like a revenge story.
Yeah, he basically went to the Greek gods and was like, take away my nightmares. I did this awful thing. And he did a bunch of stuff for him for 7 years, almost like a work for hire.
Yep.
And he came back to him and said, I did it. Now take away my nightmares. And they said, we can't do that. We said, we'd forgive you. You're forgiven, but we can't exonerate you of, or we can't remove this from your mind. That's your burden to carry. And so he was furious and he was like, fuck it. I'm killing all of you. I hate you all.
Yeah.
That's different. It's not that I wanted to be the Hulk, although the Hulk, depending on the version, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because when I played 2018, and I have not touched Ragnarok because I'm waiting for it to be free on PlayStation Plus because of course it will be. I didn't feel like it was just Kratos weeping into a Kleenex the whole time. I thought it was
I didn't either. I didn't either.
He was sad in the very, very beginning, but in a stoic way. And then some fucking little runt shows up with tats, is like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kick your ass. So they fight. And then after that, he's like, well, come on, boy. And, we need to go up here. Your mother wanted us to go up here to this mountain to put her to rest. And then the whole time, he's just being fucked with by this new branch of gods from the Northlands. I'll never understand. How did Kratos end up in where he was? You know what I mean?
I get it.
Did they ever explain that in Ragnarok?
No, I don't. Well, if they did, I stopped playing it after about 6, 7, 8.
Was that supposed to be Midgar?
I don't know.
Or was that one of the other realms?
I don't know. I care so little about the lore at this point.
Yeah.
But and again, it's not,
But you know what I mean? You see people, they're like, oh, they turn Kratos into sad dad.
I don't think they necessarily have the vocabulary to properly express what it is they're feeling. I think that's what we're talking about. But I think fundamentally, and yes, I did say that to be a patronizing elitist snob. Fuck you. But
I agree about Atreus.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about, though, or at least what I'm talking about, is not so much he's sad dad all the time. It's that it's gone from being a fun summer blockbuster that has some heart and some pathos to being a Oscar bait.
Yes, no, I agree.
Thing. And that's fine if you dig that, but I don't. I like that for certain things, but that's not why I play God of War. That's why I love The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, because The Last of Us
Part 2 is meant to be that. But God of War, it's like, what are you doing? You can change it. You got to reinvent it. I get it. But you don't reinvent, The Legend of Zelda by turning it into a pachinko game. It's like,
I totally get what you're saying. Because a perfect example of this is God of War was the turn it on. Are you into Greek lore? Cool. Are you not? Cool, because guess what? Do you like to fucking rip people in half and beat the shit out of them and fuck up a bunch of giant bosses? Which I'm not making fun of it, because, dude, camp is great. Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite movies. Is it a good artistic movie? No, it's really fucking stupid, but I love it. Mm-hmm. But God of War was an action game, so much so that Prince of Persia ripped it off with The Warrior Within. Ooh, now the prince, he doesn't care about time daggers. He's edgelord, rock and roll, murder puppet. But the new one, I agree. They went like cinematic. We need to have like more story and more introspection, which I could see a lot of people are like, I don't fucking care about this. I just want to rip people in half and hit people in the face with
I think that paints I think it paints my
I'm
view.
simplifying it.
Yeah, I'm not, and that's what I take issue with is when people act as if what I want is just some bone dry, stupid
No.
game. I still want the character to have his issues and have some struggles and to be more relatable and all that stuff. But I want it to be more like I said, I want it to be more like Raiders of the Lost Ark or a Mission Impossible film or Top Gun Maverick, where you can have all the action and you can have the explosions and the big commercial stuff. And yeah, there is an underlying well-written character story there that keeps you on the hook, even if you're not loving every minute of the action. But
Yeah, the old games had story.
right. God of War, in my opinion, has gone on. And Uncharted, we were talking about this with John Garvin yesterday. Uncharted 4 did the same thing. They went too far into the realm of look at me, Ma, I'm an artist, and they lost sight of going, look at me, Ma, I'm an entertainer.
But those games are wildly successful, though.
I don't care.
But so are the old ones.
What is the
benchmark? Like, I mean, I don't. I understand
we're not talking about the money. We're at the moment.
I'm not either. I'm talking about acclaim.
I'm talking about what I like. I don't. I mean,
Sure.
I think. If you're asking me, did the games do better? Of course they did better. But a lot of that is, the franchise.
Yeah, incredibly biased and totally understandably. You literally worked on the originals, so
I don't care if anyone agrees or disagrees. There's no right answer to this. It's just subjective discussion about creativity and things we like or don't like.
Exactly.
And that's why I always go on and make it very clear. The God of War games from Eric and Corey are so incredibly well made, and they have wonderful level designs, and the combat is great. The effects are great. The performances and the sound, not just even the actors, but the sound design in those games is just second to none. It's not that it's a bad game. It's just that that's not what I like about that particular series. And I think they kind of made a mistake there. The only thing I think they did that was, quote, wrong is they now are walking away from Ragnarok with Atreus, who's not very liked. And he's not very cool, and he's not compelling. So you don't want to build a franchise around him.
Are you about to spoil Ragnarok?
And you have Kratos, who now is just some dull old guy, and I don't want to play that. Maybe you do, but I don't. I think if I had been directing Ragnarok, my number one job would have been, by the time this game ends, if you're really going to continue taking Kratos down that path, you've got to do something that make people go at the end of God of War Ragnarok, I cannot wait to play a pure Atreus game, because he just became bad motherfucking ass. And even
all they have to do is switch mythologies, right? Like they could just do
I hope not.
His dad
they could just
walks
do
in at
a
the
Fountain
end.
of Youth mechanic or something where Kratos it gets reborn and
or the Sisters of Fate could go back and say, we don't like that thread, that was shitty, let's go into this one. But
I wouldn't like that. Don't do the multiverse thing.
Here's how Ragnarok should have ended. The credits roll. The post-credit scene is you control Kratos walking and talking to Mimir, because it's, walk and talk, that's the games. And they're like, oh, I wonder how Atreus is doing in his new life, blah, 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 blah. And they turn a corner, and he is playing a sex minigame fucking the shit out of a bunch of woodland nymphs or whatever the fuck you fucked in the Norse times in the woods that were magic. And it's like, and then it plays the Larry David theme. And then we come back, and now basically the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I really do think that they missed an opportunity to make Atreus a big hero in that game. And so now I don't know, man. Where do you go from there? So anyway, all right, Ravnos, thanks, buddy.
Yep.
All right, Kenny B. Hey, it's Kenny B. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Kenneth,
hey,
you there, bud?
What's going on, brother? Hey, yeah, I'm here. What's going on, man?
I'm doing a show. What are you doing?
I'm just studying a bit.
Yeah. What are you studying?
Telecommunications. Well, I'm listening to you.
You goddamn right. Who's better? Fuck telecommunications. So what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, actually, I kind of want to piggyback on the last caller, and when he was talking about the God of War. I just see I see that a lot with modern gamers now, is that they kind of have this ritual for AAA games. like whether Spider-Man or God of War, or just I just kind of see people just seem so like they nitpick so much when these titles come out. And where I see it is like when you get like Assassin's Creed, you get some of these games that's coming out later in the year. Those are
Yeah.
like your block. The way I look at it is like those are your blockbuster games.
Mhm.
It's like during the summer when you have your summer movies. Those are your blockbuster, big hitter, 100, 200, $300 million titles. And then you
Right.
have your more lower budget, like because I just finished Still Wakes the Deep last
Mhm.
night. Paid $36 for it. It was a decent game. You kind of get a little nice 6-8 hour um
Yeah, it's more like
gameplay.
I play. I didn't finish it, but I played it. I get it. And you've got lower than that as well when it comes to indie stuff. So yeah, I'm with
Right,
you on the and I think the studios they look at it that way too. They go, these are our big tentpole games for the year, which
right,
is one of the reasons you're not getting as much of the kind of 90s TNA and over the top stuff because the audience needs to be bigger for these, which is fine.
right. You have more women playing.
Right.
So when I see people like bash a God of War or an Assassin's Creed and whatnot, it's like I want people to understand like there's a lot that goes into these games as creatives, right? So just appreciate it for what it is. If you don't like it, that's completely subjective and that's okay. But to just bash it, like I've seen these past couple of weeks, of someone like Grums, for example, which I find them to be so toxic
I
to the
know.
community, in
I,
my
I
in my
think
personal opinion.
I don't think you're
You know,
wrong. I mean, I've known the guy. My personal interactions with him have always been nothing but fine. But I do find his online persona just really not healthy.
right? Because if this industry is gonna grow and you have more women playing, especially when you have more women playing, for example. So the stories are going to have to change. Right? You're gonna have more female lead characters. Like when people were bashing Ayla because of the way her face looks, and they added 20 extra pounds. Like, so what?
I said it. I said it last time on here. Like the girls with the tattoos and the purple hair are the ones that are cool playing video games with you, and then being your girlfriend. Like I don't know why people don't like liberal women that want to play like a certain type of video game. They're the people that want to play video games. Like so, all these men that play video games that don't like alternative liberal women, like I don't get it. Like those are the ones that you want. Like those are the ones that are gonna go play D&D with you with a friend
Right,
group, and
right.
then gonna do a co-op Baldur's Gate playthrough. Like it doesn't make any. It's like they're missing the plot. Like they play in
Well, I mean,
themselves.
I don't know. I mean, I think they're basically saying that they're looking for more traditionally, not conservatively, but more traditionally standard definitions of
Okay,
attractiveness.
I'm
And
I'm
that's
happy you brought
fine.
that.
I support their preferences, and there should be games, and there
That's
are
great,
games.
but those women don't like video games.
Some of them do.
But that's a
No,
generalization. Yeah, sure. But like in general, the age-old stereotype of
but
like,
the
why do
goal
you
is
play
not to
video
play a
games all the
character
time?
who looks like a woman who would play video games with you. I don't know.
But
what
then
the goal
again,
is.
then that's poisoning and skewing your preferences of like, like it's like maybe it's a good thing to learn to appreciate a certain type of woman that if you build a connection with a certain type of woman and interact with them, that's going to enhance and build on your quality of life rather than getting in this vicious cycle where you engage with certain type of women that aren't interested in you and your interests and like what really makes you tick, and then you have a negative experience there, and then that builds up your own personal resentments, and you just get in this cycle of like, well, I don't like women because I don't like women because I
don't
want
know. I
this
mean,
certain thing.
I think everyone's different, and I think the culture war part of it is is such a big part that's driving it. That you can't. It's who knows what any individual at any given time is really angry about on these topics, but I like that at least for the moment we live in a country where as long as people can make whatever they want and buy whatever they want, it doesn't. I'm good. If suddenly it was like the government comes in and says
But
you can't make
Jaffe,
this, yeah,
Jaffe, I just want to interject and kind
yeah,
of go back to what you said a few minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
And I, to an extent, I understand where they're coming from. Even an
Sure.
individual like Grumps, because let's keep it real. His what's
Well,
happened.
okay. Well, Grums, I don't know about, but tell me what you understand about where some of these guys are coming from. What do you understand?
Okay, is just that there's is a pendulum, right? Oh, just like when the kids used to say, "There's layers to this shit," right? There's, right when the kids used to say, there's layers to everything, right? Like,
There's
okay, like
levels.
yeah, right. Keep it at third gear. Don't get up to fifth. I think what people are pushing back against is, to an extent, some of the over sexualization. Okay, and let's for me to be very blunt, some people, for example, are not ready for LGBTQ characters in games, right? When I was playing the Spider-Man 2 game and they
Mhm.
had that side mission, I remember playing that side mission where you have to help the kid because he wants to, I don't know if it was propose to his
I
gay
think he
friend or
wants to
whatever it
ask
was.
somebody to the prom, right?
Right, it was the prom mission. I was playing that and I thought to myself, oh man, these guys on the right are gonna have a field day with this. Because for me, it doesn't bother me because I don't care, right? But
Mhm.
for some other people, they might be turned off by that. And what I don't like is that, okay, if you're turned off by that particular mission, that's fine. But to just completely uh, trash the game as just woke or it's not worth the purchase, that I don't like. Because they did that with a game that I really enjoyed, which was Forspoken. I love that game. The combat, the fluidity of it all,
I
and the
enjoyed the
fact.
combat and the navigation. I wasn't in the headspace for a big open world game, so I never went
Oh,
back to
I
it
loved it.
after the
I
demo.
beat
But
it, bought the
yeah,
DLC, beat it. I loved it. And
right.
once again, it was one of those situations where because of its affiliation with Sweet Baby Inc. Oh my God, it's a terrible game. Oh my God, don't buy it. Oh my God, it's a zero.
That's not why people thought Forspoken was terrible. I hate to be the bearer of bad
I don't,
news
I
or
don't
Really?
think
anything,
it's
but
terrible. But why do you think people thought it was terrible, Kirkland?
yeah. The VO was not very good.
Okay,
The
wasn't the best. I agree. It wasn't the best. Wasn't the best.
the world building and writing, like in terms of like what the setup was, like what's my purpose? Like I'm going in this game world. What am I supposed to be doing? It didn't have like a good narrative hook. The
No, I have to push
gameplay.
back on that. I have to push back on that. I do agree that the world at times looked barren, but I think that was a design decision because of the way that she moves. Like you need a lot of open space because she's like gliding all over the place and she's doing all of these moves. But as you play the game, there is a story. Like there were some great boss battles in that game, especially when I think the third sister when you're fighting in the water and stuff, and it's just like the camera's just moving. It's like it had that big budget feel to it, and of course they had the actress and the that very beautiful young lady in the game as well.
Yeah,
So,
she's real pretty.
but yeah, but
Um,
I get what you're saying. It's just that the world definitely looked barren. So if you're someone who
I'm
hadn't been played, you might be turned off by it.
right. I mean, yeah. Look, I mean, I don't have the time or patience anymore. With that particular, it's just like, look, I don't care. I mean, let me try to articulate this because I'm not shutting down the topic because I'm like, oh, it's this dumb topic.
Oh
But
no, 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 of course, of course.
I mean more from a standpoint of you're not going to win with any of these people on the left or the right. You're not they a lot of them are convinced that they are right and you were wrong and you're part of some evil cabal. And I hear what they're saying and I can relate to some of what they're saying, and those games are out there. But I think Stellar Blade's a great example. All you have to do is look at Stellar Blade's sales and reviews, which is to say it's clearly a very good game. It's fun.
Right,
It made
right.
its profit.
I tried the demo. It was good.
Yeah, it made its money back, and it's super sexy and over the top when it comes to its violence and its sexuality, and that's excellent. And I love that games out there, there are games out there like that, and it sold a
That's right.
million copies, and that's not a
Yep.
bomb. That's not bad. That's pretty fucking decent, but not so much for a first party / second party Sony exclusive. And so this idea that the reason these games are not being made at the scope and amount that these people want is because of some woke culture versus just like, look, the market is speaking. They didn't buy it at the same number that they bought Spider-Man, which happens to have hook up two gay dudes on a date for the prom. So if you're running that company and your job is to make money, what would you do when you sit there and you go, okay, I've got $200 million sitting in front of me. Do I give it to the team coming in to pitch Stellar Blade 2? Or do I give it to the team coming in to pitch Spider-Man 3? Or Ghost Tsushima 2? Which I don't think anybody says is woke or not woke, but I'm just saying
definitely not. There was no
these
complaints
people
about
are
that
only
one.
in there to make money. This idea that unlike other companies, the video game companies and the entertainment companies somehow, have some weird thing where they put their own personal political agenda ahead of the bottom line. No, doesn't happen. Maybe Ben and Jerry's, but short of that, that's not what you're seeing.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true because like what you were talking about earlier, what was your exact phrasing? You said something about like it went too far in the direction of, oh, look at us, this is art. I think when you start to get into expressive art, that inherently, and I'm not even saying this is a negative, I don't personally mind this, that inherently becomes expressive from a standpoint of what your like core beliefs and philosophies
there's a point
are.
of view.
Yeah. And so like I think so. Like when you venture into a video game being art rather than a product for consumption, it does go in that direction. Now I am very surprised about the reaction that people are having to that, saying like, get that crap out of here. We don't want your art. I would like, it's great to have art from people of like diverse backgrounds and artistic tendencies and predispositions and everything. Like, I think that's great. I'd like to see diversity in film and shows and games. So I don't know why everybody wants like the same, like, settings and characters and everything for every video game.
To them, they will tell you, they will say, but we're not getting ours. And it's like, well,
it's bullshit.
No, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Well, I mean, they're not wrong in the sense that most games that are big budget games are not Stellar Blade, right? Most games are going through a process where it used to be that every woman was designed for the male gaze, the straight male gaze. Now, these big budget games clearly are like, you know what? Do we really want that? And I think that's a very valid position to take. Do we really want that? But a lot of these gamers are saying, yeah, you may not, but we fucking do. And so they
buy the ones that are like that. Like, well, I don't get it. Like, I don't get the idea.
I don't agree with it, but to act as if you don't understand what they're saying, I think is disingenuous.
I'm gonna double down. It's not disingenuous.
Well, then you're not
we talked about this. No, I can articulate it as an intellectual alternative position to yours.
Try it.
We talked about this before. I don't understand the positioning of the consumer and the contention, the assertion that I want like all of the options to be things that I like. Like, I don't understand the discomfort and even like the irate reaction of people to like, oh, there's a Star Wars show that exists and it's not for me. It's like, well, there's 5 others. Did you like any of those? Or like, oh, there's, a certain type of video game from this developer. It's not particularly for me.
Like I said, practically you're right, but to act as if what they're saying has no basis, I think
it doesn't have any logical basis.
I don't agree with you. I think I'm maybe we're talking about different things.
Okay.
The psychology of what they're saying, why they're saying it, is logical. I can understand.
Yeah, but they need to learn to process emotions and have cognizance of like how things work.
They do. That I would agree with. And that's not to say they're wrong for wanting what they want. And it's also not to say that.
No. Sorry. Here's the middle ground. You're right. It's right. It's okay to want things. Like, it's okay to want all of the money, or to like want, all of the benefits, or like, to want to be the person at your job that gets the big raise or whatever. But like, you also have to have like an understanding of like, you're you, and then like you're just one individual, and then there's like all these other people. So it's like, like if you went to an ice cream shop and for whatever reason, they were like, oh, 2 people can get a scoop of ice cream, and you were like, well, I want both. Like, you're just an asshole. So, having this awareness of like, other people can benefit and enjoy things too. And it's not all about me.
But but what I'm saying is an understandable psychological reaction. I don't know if it's based in any kind of fact necessarily. But when they say, yeah, but the problem is we aren't getting what we want, right? They're not wrong when you look at the $300 million budget games that were never $300 million. But the AAA games that back when they were younger were the PS3 games, they were made specifically with them in mind. The ads were, the characters were, and now if you want that, you have to go into AA and indie if you want something that's a bit more risque, just like every other medium. And they don't like that. And I don't care.
That's not even true. You can just do double
AAA
Eastern made games, really. I mean, like that's.
But they're talking. I think most of them are talking.
Look at the first Descendant, man. You got boobs aplenty.
I know.
You got a lot of boobs.
They don't want to play that. These guys are mostly talking about the Sony single player narrative games that they came up with.
Like that's insane. Like that's like being
okay,
like
but you're responding at a level. You're not talking about what I'm talking about. I agree.
You're basically saying like I have to understand that people are dumb as a premise.
No, what I'm saying,
I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a little more nuanced. What I'm saying is that you have to understand that unlike you, I don't know where you live. I think you live in LA.
No, I actually live in the Southeast.
Where? What country? What state?
I'm in the Carolinas.
Okay, are you like in a big city like Raleigh or what?
If you call Raleigh a big city, then sure.
It's what I'm saying is there are people that are in cities and
I'm not in a rural.
Right. So there are a lot of people that simply are not, their life experience is not being surrounded by a lot of diversity, which is not an excuse to be an asshole. But I do think if you do want to make the world a better place and a happier place for everybody, and I think that's most people. They don't act that way, but I think most people aren't looking to make other people miserable. I think there is there is a moral stance of like, I don't care if you're ignorant, and I don't care if you've never had a black friend, a Jewish friend, a Muslim friend, a trans friend. You're an ignorant person and fuck you. That's a valid position because fundamentally, morally...
And to be clear, that's not my position.
Okay, well, that is a very moral position. You should just be kind to everybody and be open and accepting. But practically speaking, I think there is a way to go, okay, why are they pushing back so hard? Because you can get these things in other places. You don't have to not be a gamer if you want TNA or if you want violence or if you just want white straight heroes. And
my thing is that, but those games exist. It's just that, like we alluded to earlier, you have a market that's expanded, which is a good thing, especially for a lot of more women gamers. And I'm pretty sure these guys behind the scene are sitting there thinking to themselves, if I'm making a game like Fable, right, and I want a bigger audience, especially female audience, do I want my character to walk around looking like Pamela Anderson, or do I just want an everyday down the block type of girl?
Which they never did. Like I feel like Kenny B, there's like some revisionist history here. Like it's not like Spider-Man on the PS1 had like smoking hot chicks in it, or Fable was like not like cartoony as all hell.
No, I'm sorry, that's not true. That you're right.
There are franchises. Well, what since when is Lara Croft not hot? I haven't seen a not hot Lara Croft yet.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, the recent game she was bad.
Yeah,
man.
Wait a minute.
It's like this revisionist history that like other games that weren't ever about that, they aren't about it now. So let's complain. Like nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. The only difference is now is that you have
it's simply not accurate. Would you like to hear how it's not accurate?
No, we're just gonna take over your show, Jeff.
No, I have a button. Listen, here's why it's not accurate. Okay, because when I made God of War 1. Every woman was topless that I could get topless, okay? And not only was it celebrated and made a lot of money, it got Game of the Years and great reviews. It wasn't looked at as schlock. It wasn't looked at as, exploitation. It was looked at like,
that scene was badass, though.
Yeah, this is the AAA standard, right? And then if you look at Mortal Kombat, the way the women were designed in Mortal Kombat, if you look at Lara Croft, if you look at...
Lara's the same.
Lara's not. Again, I like.
But we're in agreement with you, Jaffe. We agree.
Well, no, you're not. Well, Kirkland's not. He's saying that
No, 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 no,
it's
no, no, no.
revisionist
What he's
history.
saying.
Lara Croft
no,
is
no,
not
no,
a
no,
good
no.
example of
No, no, no.
a character
Jaffe,
that's been like neutered in terms of sexuality and
no.
sexual.
What Kirk is saying, what Kirk was saying, at least I at least from what I gathered was that those type of games existed then, they exist now. It's just
And
that
also,
what
there were
I'm
games
saying.
that weren't sexual before that still aren't sexual, and people are complaining, well, these games aren't sexual anymore. They never were. Like, those franchises were never about that.
Give me an example.
Fable and Spider-Man.
Okay,
Fable
I
and
don't.
Spider-Man.
Sure. Fable, I don't know because I never played it because it was Xbox, and who the fuck played that? But I'm kidding. But Spider-Man in the comic, sure, Mary Jane was hot. I honestly don't remember what the low poly version of Mary Jane looked like in Spider-Man 2. But you're probably right; she wasn't walking around in a bikini. So sure, but I'm talking about though as a zeitgeisty cultural experience of coming up in the 90s and early 2000s. Most games were squarely made
Like for men.
thematically.
There's just more games now. That's
Yeah,
all.
Yeah, that is true.
No,
There's a lot more games.
there are more games, of course, but the big budget AAA games that we're talking about are mostly now filtered through a more inclusive,
I agree.
diverse lens. I like
agree.
that. I don't have a problem with that. But to act like what they're saying is nothing changed, no, it
I
did.
feel like the effect of that is so negligible, though. Like,
Okay,
I
then
mean,
what are
it's
they complaining about? They're just lying?
I think it's a what's the word?
Yeah, I mean, okay,
like it's a phantom idea. Like it's like there's a phrase. There's a better way to articulate that.
I know what you mean. There is a political thing at work that allows.
It's a feeling. It's not tangible.
It allows these stories to gain traction and feel true without there actually being evidence, and it's part of the culture war. That is in play, absolutely across the board. But I also think, though, that there are concrete examples where you can look at these older games. And I know because I worked on them. I worked on them when the marketing guys came to me and said things like,
let's do that, though.
Give Kratos a hand in
Can we
God
talk
of War
about some
2. And it was a
franchises?
hot woman. And it's like they were clearly referencing hand jobs, right?
Let's talk about some franchises that have migrated enough in a way that isn't negligible. So we're saying God of War and Mortal Kombat. I will concede both of those.
Mhm.
That's two. Are there any more?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, there was Fear Effect.
What
there
the
was
what the
Persona?
What is that? What is Fear Effect? Have they had a game in the last decade? What is
They're
that?
putting out a new one now. There was Parasite Eve. There was
And Tomb Raider hasn't changed much.
I mean a franchise that has a relevant existence right now that used to be marketably more sexual and has migrated as a result of this like cultural shift.
Okay, so let's see. I don't know. Let me think.
I'm not trying to be like, answer the question. I'm not trying to do that to
Okay,
you.
so
I
mean, obviously,
I'll throw Tomb Raider in that. So.
I mean,
I reject that.
Well.
She's still a baddie. Absolutely.
no one's saying you can't be both, Kirk. She's a baddie, but she's also designed to be super fucking hot.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. What's
she's
troubling?
Not hot now, so it hasn't gone through that filter.
But she has been the
overt. It's just different kind of hot.
Oh,
She's still intentionally hot.
No, wait a minute.
Gamers can't complain that women aren't intentionally hot in games just because they don't like the methodology of the implementation of the hotness.
Oh yeah, you're not arguing in good faith. Either that or you.
I'm totally arguing in good faith.
But because Tomb Raider, originally
Sorry, she doesn't have blocky boobs anymore, Jaffe.
Up until I like Lara Croft in every iteration I've seen her in. I'm not knocking Lara Croft. But Lara Croft, up until probably the rebrand of Tomb Raider, where she was on the island and she's got the cover where she's wrapping her arm and there was all the torture porn when she died and all that shit.
Yeah, she went from a C cup to A cup. Yep.
She, up until that point, she was overtly sexualized. She was designed primarily to be a hot female TNA Playboy model that you could get away with without it being an M-rated title or an X-rated title. Then they said, let's evolve her and make her more real, more relatable, still attractive, but she doesn't exist to get your dick hard. And I don't think there is anything wrong with that. I think that is great. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's healthy. I think it shows progress for the medium, as long as there are still sort of real porny and sort of teen Porky style video game characters in other games. But to act as if Tomb Raider back then, her design was made with the same intention and same list of goals, that's disingenuous. I'm sorry.
I don't think that you can demonstrably say that they have intentionally made Lara Croft less sexy in new iterations. I just don't think that's true. I just don't. Like, she's still 100% intentionally very attractive as a character. So I don't.
But her main goal now is to be a capable, strong, independent woman who's out kicking ass and having adventures. It is not to be a masturbatory prop for teenage boys. And it was. And to act like it wasn't is goofy.
No, I agree. Yeah, I was right. Okay, so I mean, once again, I don't want to take up too much time. Pictures other callers, but I guess I'll just surmise by saying that because what's troubling to me is when I go on X or X/Twitter, and especially during the showcase, what I see trending is Fable. And the reason it's trending is because, oh my God, look how the character looks. I just want to say to people who hold that view that the gaming landscape has changed, not in a bad way, just that, let's keep it real, you have more females playing, because men always played. Guys like myself, black guys always played games, right? So now we just have more women playing. And of course, the consequence of that is that certain AAA games, because they want to make the money, the characters are not going to have a C cup and walk around with booty shorts. Okay, guys? So, right. You know, I'm just tired of seeing that. I think it's detrimental to the industry as a whole, because I want these companies to keep making great games. So if a game has a level about a gay character, so the fuck what?
Yeah, I
right?
agree with
so
you.
So the fuck what?
There is, if you're coming to this show, I know you're not, but if you're a brand new member of this show or watching the show, and I appreciate that, and you think I have a problem with these changes, I don't. What I have a problem with is I think the revisionist history is acting like Tomb Raider was never meant to be. And in the chat, I see Eternal saying the team didn't want that. I don't care what the team wanted. It's how it was sold. Look at this woman wearing, this is Tomb Raider 3. It's a woman, a dude in his boxer shorts ready for sex, and the girls in the mirror dressed as Lara Croft going, are you sure you want me to wear this? Here's one where for Tomb Raider 2 that says, who says boys shouldn't play with dolls? To act like the original group of Tomb Raider games.
I don't even remember none of these.
Right. Well, to act like the original Tomb Raider games or the industry as a whole. I know you don't remember.
Debate over Jaffe wins by way of being old.
Yeah, but you don't get to argue the history of the medium without coming with ammunition. And if my age
this is the game that Grub was like the game that invented lesbians.
These two ladies put the ass in Assassin.
Damn,
what do you want, man? I mean,
wow.
this is
I wasn't big on Tomb Raider back in the PS1, PS2 days, and I'm like, wow, man, they were really selling her. Wow.
Here, just look, sexist video games, 90s, 2000s. I mean, they're everywhere.
Wow.
Balls out.
Right, look at Blood Rain.
Dude, yeah, Blood Rain's awesome.
Dead or Alive beach volleyball.
Look, if they brought Blood Rain
one.
back,
Wow.
if they brought Blood Rain back, and she wasn't like an overt,
it'd be a literal civil war on Twitter.
I would shut the fuck up. Like, I really
come
would.
on. Do you think this? By the way, this is I believe this was a Sony first party game or a Sony online game. Live by the Sword, really? You think this was the best? Don't tell me they weren't selling to teenage boys. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we shouldn't.
Men too.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm saying to the mentality. I'm not.
Yeah,
suggesting,
it's mostly for teenagers. I see where Jaffe's getting at.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting things
teenagers.
Shouldn't change, can't change, blah 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 blah. But don't act like these guys don't have a point. I don't agree with them, but they have a point. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. I've never seen. this is a real quick short trip down memory lane. And
Let me tell you
holy
something else
crap.
real quick that happened this weekend. And I see right now in the chat,
Wow.
I see Frank talking about it. The Guy game, which I didn't even. There was a story this weekend you guys may have seen where it was for sale at some convention, a used copy of the Guy game, and I guess it was like selling for $200.
Yeah.
Or $250, and I guess it was you can't buy it anymore because there's underage nudity in it. The guy who made it wanted to make a game like Girls Gone Wild, where you have this meter where they flash and everything. And I guess some of the girls were under 18, and so people got upset that it was being sold at the convention. I mean, I think it's a great collector's item, of course. But obviously that's horrible. But I mean, is
that an FMV? Is that an FMV game?
I think it was FMV with like simple mini games layered on top. I never played it.
Never heard of this one. No.
Yeah, but I mean, it came and they pulled it off the shelves and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's like here it is. Like, what is the average bra size in the U.S.? There were questions like that, and I guess if you filled up the meter, she would flash you, or I don't fucking know.
Oh man!
And you're coming from a generation like, remember the arcade racing games? They would pixelize women to come out at the beginning of a fucking racing game, like Cruising USA, wearing a bikini and almost nothing else, and holding up.
Oh, I have that. I have that as well. Oh man, classic, bro, classic. Yep.
So
I have a copy of that one.
all I'm saying is let's at least, I think these guys should do what everybody else does when art forms mature, which is to go, the big money's not going to be spent on me anymore because the art form has matured, and that means the budgets have gone up, and it means that there's more people they have to serve, and there's more scrutiny. Right. And just like with movies and books and plays and TV shows and music, if you want to find the stuff that's tailor-made for you, that is out there. But it's not going to be in the top 10 list of downloadable fucking video games. That's just, that's business. That's how it works. So anyway, all right, Kenny B, be safe out there on the mean streets.
Gentlemen,
New York.
be good.
Go save some lives, baby. When's the last life you saved? When did that happen? This guy drives an ambulance. When did you pull up, and if it wasn't for you, that person would be dead?
Okay, so there's a hospital in No, I work per diem now because I'm studying for looking to switch careers. So I currently work per diem. But the last one that I just remember on the top of my head was this lady that was struck by a vehicle.
Yeah.
And that was crazy because when we got there, like literally in the back of her head, it looked like soup. Like, you ever seen Campbell's soup? Like when somebody has a brain injury, that's literally how it looks. Like, it looks like
did you have PTSD
picture really
over
thick
this job?
Campbell's. No, not necessarily PTSD, but just a lot of back pain, knee pain.
But it doesn't psychologically hurt you.
No, I get used to it. You get used to it after a while. So
and
you see a lot of obviously I'm not going to delve into adult talk about games, but especially from a political lens, you kind of see the underbelly of how things work. Whether you're talking about Medicaid, Medicare, or they're talking about housing, poverty, all of those things, you see them play out in real time because you're interacting with doctors, you're interacting with social workers and patients on a regular basis. You're inside people's houses all the time. So
has that changed your political stance on things? Or
oh hell yes, I definitely have become.
Just briefly tell me how. I don't want to get into politics like that. But
right, of course, me neither. I don't want to mess up the stream. I've definitely become more conservative. I've definitely become more conservative over the years.
How come?
So,
what is driving an ambulance and seeing these people like this? Why has it made you more conservative?
It's just from a very basic viewpoint, just the spending. You see a lot of waste.
You mean you mean on like more liberal policies and whatnot that create?
Yeah, because I'm definitely more of a moderate on a lot of issues, right? So there's some issues where I agree with Republicans, there's some issues where I agree with Democrats or liberals or conservatives. Right. So I'm more in the middle. So I tend to look at both sides. I'm apolitical. I'm an independent-minded voter. So but definitely there's some issues, especially working in the field, that I'm more conservative leaning. I see the waste. I see the bloat. You see the when you talk about public housing, you see the when folks are just given things and it's not necessarily worked for in a sense, you see how people become apoplectic. They become just I'm in a liberal state. It's come one get all, come one come all. It's little stuff like that. That it
Interesting.
kind of
Okay.
makes you like I see where the Republicans come from, and when they talk about spending and reining in spending, so I see it because I see it firsthand all the time. So
You are aware, though, that
yeah,
Republicans, like Trump left office with $8 trillion deficit, and Biden is leaving with, he
yeah,
spent $4
yeah,
billion. I mean, the
yeah.
Republicans
No,
actually
for
spend
sure.
more, but I hear
Yeah,
you,
I mean
and I appreciate.
but that's what I'm saying. But well, that's all different because then you're talking about a two-party system, and they both
Oh, it's
spend money,
horrible. Yeah. All right,
right?
buddy, be
But
safe
just in
out
terms
there,
of
and
okay,
thank
thank
you
you.
so much, man. All right, let me ask you guys a question now. Different topic. Different topic. There has been a number of people that have come down negatively on the news that Xbox is partnering with Amazon to make the Game Pass Amazon Fire Stick, for which will basically let you, instead of having to buy anything, you just get a Fire Stick, and that's like, I don't know how much they are, like $40, $30. And if you want it to be wired, there's an adapter, so it's like $15. So I'm going to spend about $45, and I'm going to get this for the big TV in the living room, right? And it will give you Game Pass streaming. There's also a word on the street, I don't know if this has been confirmed, that they're going to be bundling uh, GeForce Now streaming onto the Game Pass or onto the Xbox, right? So, and I love all of this. I think this is great. Love all this, but I know a lot of people are upset. Here's my question, though. Do you think the argument against this is coming from, like, people say, oh, it'll never work, streaming's terrible, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And I don't want to get into that debate. It's an old debate. Your mileage will absolutely vary depending on, where you're playing. My streaming experience, anytime I can play something streaming, I will play it streaming. That's how great it is for me. But whatever. So let's assume, here's what I want to know. Let's assume that Microsoft does this. If you could be guaranteed the experience I'm talking about, then would you support it? Because I think so much of and I could be wrong, but I think so much of the pushback has nothing to do, and it's a smokescreen when a lot of people push back and they say, oh, it's this or the latency or this or that or the other. And I'm telling you, I'm not experiencing that. If you can have the same experience, are you suddenly like, oh, well, fuck, yes, I'm in? Or do you still hate it? And if you still hate it, what's the real reason you hate it? And while you're thinking about that on the chat and Kirkland, I want to bring in, or I want to say thank you to Frank Lass. Frank Lass has ponied up the bar. He has become the newest member of the Diet Soda Soldiers, I believe. And in that, he has allowed us, just because today's kind of a slow day, I'm not going to be this generous in the future. But Frank Lass, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. And more importantly, we're now going to take this from 100%. We're going to take it down to 50%. The first person to guess what this video game is, and you're probably not going to be able to guess it even at 50, but I appreciate that, good Sir Franklin. You are going to be able to get one of the codes to play the CONCORD beta in a couple of weeks. Here we go. Mm-hmm. This is what it looks like at 50%.
Giving out your codes.
Can you, anybody know what this is? Probably not, but we'll keep talking while we're waiting. Why is it, though, that people are against these streaming services if they work? Do you think what do you think that's about?
Is this for me?
Anybody. But sure, Kirkland, go ahead.
I don't know. In fact, I wasn't really aware that people were against this move by Microsoft. So can you speak to that anymore? Like, what have you seen on the interwebs or wherever that people are not liking this?
A lot of people bitch about it and say it's, oh, here we go, it's the beginning of the end. It's just all the same shit that they that they beat up on is basically what it is.
Like, what do you mean? Like,
I'll
how
show.
is
Okay.
this not just additive for Xbox? Like, it's
I
not going to
agree. I
change.
agree. That's
Do
why
they
I'm
think they're going to
saying.
abandon hardware? Is that the problem?
I think honestly, what it is these guys are worried about uh, their PlayStation. This is my take. I don't know if this is true, but I think they're PlayStation fans and they think, oh, this is going to kind of change everything, and I don't want anything to change. I don't want Xbox to win, quote, whatever the hell that means. Here, Amazon Fire Stick. Is this it? Come on now. Xbox and Nvidia, several games from Xbox Store given an option to play with GeForce Now, but that's not the. Here it is. Gaming coming to Amazon Fire TV. Play more games, no console needed. It'll cost you either $60 or $50, depending on what you get. And if you want to plug it into your Ethernet, it'll cost you an additional $15, and you can play from your thing. And people are not happy. Let's see. Let me find where I was looking. Fire Stick, Game Pass. Maybe NeoGAF was complaining, but they complain about a lot of things, right? Maybe it was NeoGAF. Let's see. No, I agree with this. Can't wait for the Game Pass app on my PS5. I wish that would be on the TV too. It may not have been. Game Pass.
I just haven't seen any backlash to this.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, maybe it's not then. Maybe it's not. Maybe I read it in one place and I misconstrued it. So my bad.
I think there could be a concern that Xbox is going to move away from hardware and like just do this, but
they've pretty much said that they want to do that, right? I mean, who wants to be in hardware if you don't have to?
They've already communicated that they're working on the next hardware. So
I'm not saying they think they can move away from it today, but
yeah, I mean, I guess that when you say the beginning of the end, like I assume that's what people mean. Like people are attached to physical media, and then even more so, people are attached to hardware. I think there's more of a benefit to hardware at this point than even physical media. So, I can understand people wanting Xbox to continue to make an Xbox, but at the same time, nobody's buying an Xbox anyway. So,
right,
I think as long as PlayStation continues to make a box, people are going to buy that box, and Xbox is going to continue to try to find alternate avenues of getting their ecosystem in front of people and providing convenience to people that want to play games. You see Netflix sort of enter into that territory and have some level of success, even if Stadia and Amazon Luna have not. So it's just advantageous for them to try to explore those possibilities, even if it doesn't yield some sort of immense benefit. Like they can at least explore that and see if it can produce anything for them. Because I mean, that's how breakthroughs happen, right? Like you just try different things, and then eventually something breaks through the ceiling, and all of a sudden you've got a mega hit product on your hands. So it just seems like a no-brainer for them to try to go this route. I'm surprised they're not selling their own stick, but maybe they're just like cut the middleman out.
They were going to, and I don't know why that went away. Ad Hacker says the Game Pass app works great on my Samsung TV. The issue is having a data cap. I didn't know data cap was still a thing. I don't pay crazy amounts for my internet, but I thought data cap is like from 10 years ago. There's a lot of people out there still worrying about, oh, you've watched too much Netflix, now you have to pay double or something. I mean, Kirkland, do you have a data cap?
No, not that I am aware of.
Yeah, if I have one, I've certainly never hit it.
Yeah.
Psych gets it, by the way. Psych, hit me up on the Discord or Twitter, and I don't have it today, but in the next day or two, I will send you a code. I'm pre-ordered for the beta. They haven't sent me the code yet, or if they have, I haven't gotten it. You get one of the 4 codes, though, to play the CONCORD beta. So congratulations. Good job. I did see somebody put in Dead to Rights, but you were the first that actually got it, Dead to Rights 2. Dead to Rights 2. In fact, I think Robbo guessed Dead to Rights, but no, it was the second one. You were the first to get that. Okay. Let me bring in this guy first. We haven't talked to him before. Who do I got on the stream? Who is this? Kirk at Warmer Gray. It's the same guy. What's up, buddy?
You're messing. You're here. I gave you that for B-roll if you needed it.
Oh, okay. Okay, Torque, you're on. What's up, bud?
Oh, hey. Can you see me? I don't
Yeah.
even know if. Yeah. I'm totally changing the subject if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Let's go.
Yeah. So I was watching Philip DeFranco, who's my news guy, the other day, and he did a kind of a short segment on Ozempic, and I was just curious about your experience, because it reminded me. He was talking about how a lot of doctors are prescribing it, but they're not actually monitoring their patients while they're on it. They're kind of just giving it to them and disappearing. And it was talking about how a lot of people are having like major side effects like nausea, vomiting, fatigue, diarrhea, et cetera, et cetera. And then it reminded me, my friend was telling me that he was watching a show and they were saying Ozempic doesn't just suppress your appetite, it kind of just suppresses your desire for anything. And seeing as you're actually someone who's taking it, have you found that to be the case, or not at all?
I mean, okay, so a couple of things about it.
Jaffe, this
yeah.
seems like a great opportunity for me to bounce out.
Goodbye,
we
buddy.
would love to get you on Reforge either this Friday or a week from today. So if you're seriously
you guys
interested
go
in
in the
doing
morning.
that,
You guys go in the morning, right?
yeah, around 12 noon Eastern time. So Friday or Monday.
What about what topic?
It would be first Descendant, or we could always do another week and talk about something else. We're gonna have a CONCORD show at some point. So
yeah, hit me up on Twitter tonight or tomorrow and let's schedule it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks so much, man.
All
Enjoyed
right.
it. You have a good
Talk
one.
to you soon. Okay, so Ozempic. Okay, so first off, there are a number of common side effects with it, which is like the first couple of weeks. I didn't really have any of these, but it's all the stuff you said: nausea, vomiting, headaches, diarrhea, whatever. But and those are on the package. There's nothing about that any doctor would be surprised to hear their patient was going through. If it is massive, or it is not fading after a couple of weeks, then I think that could be a problem. I have heard people saying that they are getting really bad side effects or whatever, but those are people usually, when you follow it up, are not working with their doctor. Like I talk to my doctor not constantly, but like, every 3 to 6 weeks we check in. How is it going?
Right. Yeah.
What thing are you, what I understand for some people is they'll take it, it'll work. And then they're like, oh, shit, I'll give myself more.
Yeah.
And they're not
self-medicating on it.
Right. They're not really kind of, and I am on it for pre-diabetes, right? Not that it can't work for weight loss only.
Yeah.
But I'm able to get on it because my doctor's like, well, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get diabetes. Let's try this. And I have lost about, my experience with it was the first month and a half, 3 months, 2 months. It was insanely fast. I dropped like 25 pounds.
Wow.
But now I have been basically stuck. Even though I went up in milligrams, like I've plateaued at about, like I'm 5'6" and I'm 222 pounds.
Wow. And that's after dropping.
That's after, right.
Right.
And so I've been stuck there for a while. And so I'm seeing my doctor next week, and, we're going to talk about, well, what's that mean? And sometimes it means, okay, you need to go on to a different version of it, kind of like it works, but we have a more effective one for your blah, blah, blah.
Specific. Yeah.
So yeah, I've had a really good experience with it. And what I'll say to the chat, there are people in the chat talking about, and I'm not calling anybody out, but I see it from a few people. Like PK99 is the last one to write it, but there were other people who wrote like, "Oh, diet and exercise." It's like, really? The best quote I ever heard in my life was from Rosie O'Donnell when it came to stuff like this, where she says, "I know I'm supposed to eat the bag of carrots instead of the bag of chocolate chips. I know that. I understand, and plus me, I have and one of the reasons I kind of reject diet and exercise now." As a weight loss, not as a health thing or as an energy thing, is because I've done that before. I dieted and exercised and I lost tons of weight, super healthy. Everybody was like, "Oh my fucking God, it's great. You look so great." and it wasn't sustainable. 95%,
Yeah, you can't keep it that way.
95% of diets fail. There is eating. There's all kinds of factors. There's genetics, there's thyroid, there's emotional eating, there is
psychological factors for sure.
That's right. And you can sit there and you can say, you can say that, oh, here's what you need to do. Like the elusive Dan says, drop soda and go from there. What I would say to you, Dan, is go get a job that makes you a multimillionaire and go from there. It's like I understand, and I'm not being a dick, Dan. I appreciate the comment, but everybody knows what the IKEA, how to put together the furniture plan is. I know how to do it. But, for whatever reason, my scenario is one where I have struggled with it since I was probably, maybe 40 years old.
Right. That's funny. That's right around when I started gaining weight. Actually, I gained like 40 pounds, pretty much like right around I hit 40, and I've lost like 11 pounds in the last 2 weeks. So I've just been trying. No, I was just curious about the Ozempic specifically. My buddy saying like it suppresses more than your appetite, like it suppresses your desire to do anything. So
I have not found that. I have been apathetic about a lot of things since I made money. Not that I'm a super rich guy,
right?
but the minute I didn't have to work and I could do whatever I wanted, apathy became what a joy. Because it's so amazing when you actually don't have to listen to the man.
And you can live your own life,
how your values line up. And it doesn't mean that's better or worse. It just means, and I'm not going to be super rich forever, and I'm not super rich now, but money comes and goes. But that allowed me a perspective that brought me to the joy of apathy. So I've always been, but that doesn't mean I'm disengaged from life, and it doesn't mean that I'm lazy. It just means that a lot of things I don't give a fuck about because I'm just like, we're all gonna, and a lot of it was Buddhism as well. I'm just kind of like, none of it.
But
really
you
matters.
also seem like you're still pursuing your passion, like you're doing these shows all the time, and you're playing games all the time.
So I would say to you that no, I have not found, that the Ozempic has affected me any way other than as an appetite suppressant. But I also don't have smoking issues. Like my understanding is it actually helps with smoking. It helps with other addictive issues. And more importantly, by the way, this is what I wish people would listen to and understand. Like everybody's got their own stories. Like Ravno says, my doctor said he wouldn't subscribe Ozempic to his worst enemy. Great. Yeah. And you know what? Your doctor, may be like one of others that, maybe in 5 years that this is going to end up being, everybody gets cancer. But, it's better than dying of a heart attack at 50 or 55 or what.
I mean, you're getting an extra 5 years until the cancer kicks in.
I'm so tired of people being judgy about other people, especially when it comes to stuff like this. You don't know. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'm more than happy to talk about it. It's not like I'm trying to keep it private, but you don't know my life. You don't know my DNA. You don't know my my genetic, how my mom was, how my dad was.
It's not a one size fits all solution. So
right. And I'm just like, trust me, you're not smarter than I am, and I'm not smarter than you are. You just have heard different things, and I've heard different things, and I have some experience and with it.
No,
I just get so tired of everybody, acting like a bunch of nosy neighbors that are peeking over the fences.
Totally.
Like, this is what Ozempic does.
Well, and I think the internet in general is just doing that. We're all like, it's every aspect of life. People, and that's where I was saying last time, like, I feel like people are just bored, and it's kind of a good thing because we're in a safe space where we can do that. But yeah, it is weird how everybody feels like they have to chime in. Like my roommate was saying yesterday, he's actually a gay guy, but he doesn't like the Pride parade that we have. And I think this month is Pride Month. I think that's why he was talking about it. I honestly, I just don't pay attention.
Pride Month, but yeah.
Right. Well, I think it's different in Canada. But
okay.
so, anyways, he was saying that Pride is advertised as family friendly, and yet somebody was complaining about there's nudity in Pride, and I'm like, well, nudity is family friendly. It's different to just be a naked body versus, fucking on the floats and going down the street. But beyond that, it's like, if you decide that that's not something you want your kids to see, don't fucking go to Pride. Like, it's really simple. And he was kind of saying,
not only that, I saw somebody say today online, there was I guess this was in Philadelphia, where they have a naked motorcycle ride through the streets. It's like a tradition or something. And somebody had a comment which was like, it's weird that you don't hear all the conservatives complaining about this that happens every year. And
you
this
think
is
they would
advertised as a, hey, all downtown you're going to see naked fucking people riding motorcycles.
Yeah,
it's like, just admit that the gay folks make you uncomfortable. Just own it.
Yeah, totally. Oh, because they're doing hetero motorcycle ride. Is that why it's okay?
I think it's because it's not, quote, shoving gay stuff down people's throats.
It's not promoting a specific agenda is basically the idea. Really?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
care.
No,
I don't
care.
It actually was so weird for me that my roommate was having that opinion.
I have two beautiful, amazing children. I raised them the way I wanted to. I don't need anybody's help protecting my kids from parades. If you want to protect my kids, pass some good laws that are kind to people, both them and everyone else. So
promote
we
education.
Actually have a safer environment for everybody to live in. But short of that, I don't need your help. And that may be a newsflash to a lot of these people.
Yeah,
I know it's staggering that you think I don't need your help, but I really don't need your fucking help, and you don't need mine. So why don't you put your effort into other things, right? Go do those things. That would be fun.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's weird how everybody's getting that. Last thing, what are your thoughts about, apparently the Supreme Court has now decided that the president cannot be held criminally liable for any official orders. So people were saying, so that means that the president can now officially assassinate rivals or officially cause the military to start a coup so they stay in power. Like,
yeah. I mean,
that seems
I don't
crazy to me.
I don't have the I don't have the hang on, I'm looking at this. Sorry, I don't have the data on, like, I know what the Supreme Court said, which is basically what you're saying. In terms of literally, I don't know how official and unofficial are defined. My understanding is that is going to be sort of where they
draw the line.
The magic is in terms of what gets passed and what doesn't get passed. But at the same time, one of the justices, Sotomayor, put out a dissenting opinion where she was literally talking about, okay, so that means then you can assassinate political rivals. You can do this, you can do that.
Using SEAL Team 6 or whatever.
Right.
Because then that is.
But then I saw other people pushing back and saying, okay, that is really beyond the
ridiculous.
pale. That's not what this says, and you are a justice and you shouldn't be putting that out there. And so I have absolutely no idea, and I would advise people that care about this to actually get the facts, because there are on the left, if the left is right, it sounds horrible. And if you're asking what I think about that, I think it is absolutely horrible, and it could be the beginning of the end if what they're saying on the left is a correct read. Yeah. If the right is right, which is like, dude, that's not what it's about. That's not what it was meant to do, blah, blah, blah. Then I think I hope they're right. I hope the right that are saying it's not a problem is correct about this. But I don't have the data. I don't know. I haven't watched any of the talking heads that are lawyers break it down and analyze it.
No, it just seems kind of like, I'm Canadian, so I'm slightly detached from all of it, but also I know we're very connected to the U.S. Kind of like, if you go down, you drag us with you scenario.
Oh, I mean, I think, I saw Cliff Blazinski today tweet out kind of a comment about this project 2025, right? And 2025 is this kind of thing done by the Heritage Foundation, which is a very far right Christian nationalist think tank. And, you know, if they get their way, which I don't hope they don't, you know, we're going to be heading towards the American version of Iran, where it was progressive and it was freedom, and it suddenly became this very religious lockdown state.
Yeah.
And there are people, again, there are people on the left that will tell you that this is really fucking dangerous and this is what they want. And they've been building for this since Reagan, and it could be absolutely true. And you have people on the right who are not those people, but they are conservatives on the right, and they're saying, dude, that's just a far right talking point. That will never happen. I don't know what the answer is. And I don't think most people in America want that. I think most people that are Christians don't want a Christian nationalist nation.
Well, that was the other thing. Did you hear about how, I think it was Oklahoma?
Oh yeah.
They
Ten Commandments
actually
in the
made
Bible.
legal, they made it so that teachers have to teach the Bible in school, and they're trying to connect it to all subject matter like math and science. And I'm like, what?
Okay, but that again, it's horrific, but there's a nuance to that, and there's a nuance to the one happening in Louisiana, which is putting the 10 Commandments. They know that this is not going to fly, and it's going to get kicked up to the Supreme Court. And what
that's what they said. Yeah,
right. So it's not as if they want it. They want to push these things into the public eye and into the courts. Is what they want. And
but so if they get it kicked up,
the Supreme Court to say yes, they can do that. I mean, it's a clear violation of church and state, but you know, who the fuck knows
that's
these days?
what's terrifying about it is because the Supreme Court just ruled that the president's not, you know, criminally liable, and because they're trying to push this up to the Supreme Court, doesn't that kind of worry you? It scares me because
it all worries me. But I and here's how I deal with it. One is I go. Both sides of the fence are prone to really bad scare tactics.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the people on the right that are convinced that, you know, other than a weird fringe case here or there on some weird libs of TikTok, I assure you, most people are not trying to teach your children to change genders or to change sexual orientation. Totally. It's not happening.
Yeah, in
any kind of meaningful way. And so I hope that is this for the left.
Yeah, me too.
So that gives me 50% of calm. The other 50% is if it is real, and if it's either real and even the conservatives that think it's crazy, we're all too late to do anything about it. I think at that point, I never thought I'd see anything like this in my life, and we'll just have to sort of, you know, play the cards we're dealt, but I won't stand for it.
Yeah.
I'll either leave or I'll fight.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. I wonder how many people are just going to leave the States if they kind of go that far, but it seems strange that it would. Yeah. Anyways, there was just a lot of political news on the Philip DeFranco show today that was scaring the hell out of me. I'm like,
and I think there's a reason to be scared, but I also think that there is a reason to go, is this what's real and what's hyperbole, and what's politics.
They want the clicks. That's again the reason why the news outlets are always pushing negative, news, because that gets everybody scared and that gets everybody clicking on it, and that, you know, increases their advertising dollars and whatever. So yeah, how can you can't really trust what is real and what's
and that's what's really, and I'll tell you, and it goes both ways though. I was on Colin Moriarty's show talking about the debates, and I quoted a relatively often quoted talking point, which is when Trump said after Charlottesville there were good people on both sides, right? And he did say that. I heard him say that, but I had a number of people push back on the comment section saying, yeah, but that's a misquote. And I'm like, no, it's not. I heard the guy say it. Yeah. But they're like, just go look it up. And I'm like, all right. And I went and looked it up, and they were right. He did say that, but he said it. And I don't mean, I think better of Trump. I still think Trump's a fucking nightmare. He should be in jail.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
awful.
yeah.
But to my biggest loyalty and allegiance is to facts and truth and honesty and genuineness. And if you watch that particular quote, it's very clear what he says before and after. He goes out of his way to say, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis. I'm not talking about the white nationalists. I'm literally saying the fine people are the ones, and I don't agree with this, but they could be fine people that were there legally to protest taking down Confederate statues and naming parks that were named after Confederate generals, not that. And he says they have a legal right to show up, and there's nothing wrong with those people, and there are fine people on that's, and he made it clear those people, he says, I'm not talking about the white supremacists. I'm not, those people need to be, shunned and mocked and, and so you gotta be open on both sides, because we all are getting lied to. The thing that bothers me on the right is they only think the left are the ones being lied to. And the ones on the left only think the right are the ones being lied to.
That is weird.
We're all being lied to.
I was going to say the other thing I was talking, my roommate and I tend to get political a lot of the time, but we were talking about, like, I don't follow American politics all that much. I hardly follow Canadian, but my dad was saying to me a few months back, he thinks Trump is the most vile, evil person on the planet. I'm like, okay, fine. But as president, what did he, like, to me, he seems mostly ineffective. Like, he says a lot of crazy shit, but has he done anything different than any previous Republican president?
Well, I here's what I think is the biggest. I mean, and I don't have a lot of geopolitical knowledge about, because there's a million talking heads that will tell you inflation is Trump's fault, and inflation is Biden's fault, inflation is COVID's fault, Biden getting out of Afghanistan being horrible, was the place was set, the table was set by Trump, and he had to, who you're going to get a yes, and who knows what's true. I certainly don't. Yeah. It's not about politics. We just Snake Master. Trust me. I try to stay on games, but we've been talking games for 2 hours, and we're about to wrap up, so it goes to free chat, whatever you guys want to talk about. I'll talk games too, but
I'll keep it to games next time.
Yeah, but regardless, though, what I want to say on that though is what I will say about Trump that I have a real problem with is that he seems to be willing to do or say anything in order to win and in order to stay in power. And, and in that includes fanning the flames of division in the country. And I think while you can look at it and say he was better for the economy, Biden was better for infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. Fundamentally, I do think he has done some, and I don't think it's reputable, but I think he has done some very serious psychological trauma to this country.
Yeah, that's fair. So not anything necessarily officially as president, but the shit he says, and
you could talk about the Supreme Court nominees and how unqualified some of them were, and how, there's weird things like that, but the real issue though is the anger. Like even this guy, and I think he's a troll, but he might be a troll, but he's reflective of people out there that are not a troll, which is this guy who says you guys have Trump derangement syndrome. I'm literally sitting here saying that I got it wrong when it came to one of the things that the left accuses Trump on negatively. And I walked it back and I said I was wrong. Yeah. I literally am saying that the left lies and the right lies. And yet you refuse to go, hey, maybe there is value, and just stop being so divisive.
Extremists.
And listening. And again, you're a troll. That's the attention you get. And again, I'm not mocking you. I really am concerned for you because, wow, don't you get something in your real world that brings you what you're getting here when it comes to that? But that said, though, you might, if you're serious about all this, you got to look around at the state of the nation, and you got to go, this isn't healthy for us. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Do you,
Well,
you know,
the
do you
other funny
want,
thing
this
is
like the entire country has become Thanksgiving at a dysfunctional house.
yeah.
And I don't want that. And I don't think you want that either.
The other funny thing is I'm sitting here going, I don't think Trump is actually as bad as people say he was. And your guy in the comments is saying we're biased against Trump. That's weird. I'm just curious. I don't know. I don't follow it enough,
and even like the guy in the chat right now talking about Hunter Biden. I don't give a fuck about Hunter Biden. Put him in jail if he broke the law. If Biden broke the law, put him in jail.
That's also the weird thing is it's like they're trying to say that Biden himself, like Joe Biden, is bad because his son's bad. It's like, no, you can have an awesome dad and a piece of shit son, or a piece of shit dad and an awesome son. Like, where's the connection?
Yeah,
why does that even matter?
Are we voting for their kids? We're voting for Eric and Donald Trump Jr. Is that what's happening?
I mean, I'll vote for Melania any day over Trump.
Well, yeah, me too. But
I think she'd do a better job, and she's certainly nicer to look at. So,
but I will say though, Zeke is saying, Jaffe, think about how easy it was for you to figure it out. Ever wonder why the news outlets didn't do that? I went to MSNBC and found that. I went to the most liberal site and found that. So what I will tell you is they broadcasted, and it's still up on their internet. They didn't take it down. The entire press conference where he said, and it was contextualized, and it makes total sense, even though I do think he's probably a racist asshole. That is not reflective in those statements. So the question becomes, after MSNBC broadcast it, where did the story come from, and why was it allowed? And again, you don't want to get into a debate with me about Biden lying about it at the campaign. Sure, he did. How many lies was Trump fact-checked on? It was like 30 to 50 lies. The press does a terrible job. They should have stopped the debate right there and said, wait a minute, I'm cutting the mics. Wait a minute. You just said this. That is absolutely not true. And they didn't. And it's a disservice to the American people, but, you know, they're in the business to make money at CNN and Fox and Newsmax, all of them. None of them.
Well, yeah, the more people to get pissed off. It's like, do you ever watch brain freeze, Howard Stern's movie, Private Parts?
I love that movie. Great
and
movie.
He talks about how the average Howard Stern fan listens for an hour and the average Howard Stern hater listens for 3. It's like that's exactly why they're not turning off the mics and you know, because they want to get people pissed off.
Into the deep state. This is what I'm saying about you. You are, if you're not a troll, you are wired up. You are ready to fight, and that's fine to be passionate. But when you say stop the debate, how do you jump from me saying, I think the moderators should have said, okay, we're cutting the mics, and now we're going to, in real time, explain to our audience, at least according to these 5 news sources, what President Biden just said or former President Trump just said is not accurate. Okay, we're done with that. The debate continues. How do you jump from that proposal to I want a censored police state, you non-contributing zero that was educated with a banana and an inner tube? I don't understand unless you're a troll. Let's just go with that.
I think you're kind. They're not trolls, Jaffe. They're just uneducated. That's the sad reality. Is I think education is the biggest thing that everyone should be pushing, because
but they don't want education. The people in power don't want us to be smart.
No, yeah, you're right. No, it's totally non-beneficial. If we were educated, we'd all go, what the fuck? Both sides are crazy.
That's right.
Let's form a new party. Because anyways,
all right, buddy. Good to talk to you. All right, man.
Otherwise, we'll never stop with this.
That's right. All right, bud.
Yeah.
See ya. All right, I'm going to bring in the last caller of the day. It's been a good conversation. I appreciate it. Oh, my God, you guys, stop. Stop. Are you not listening? How can you be a sentient being that has the power of the internet at your fingertips and literally think that your take, if your take is pro-right or pro-left, is 100% correct, and the other person's on the other side is 100% wrong? How can you be so naive? You must have rocks in your brain pan. Martin, it's Jaffe. What's going on, pal?
What's up, Jaffe?
Talking about the things that matter and talking about long legs with Nick Cage. What's going on, bud?
I just want to say, please tell me you looked at the video.
Oh, I did look at the video. Yes. Okay, let me be clear. This is some video game news, my friends. So Martin called in a couple of weeks ago and said he was watching a guy who has a real popular God of War channel, Captain Kuba, and he said, I did an interview with him, and in the interview, I'm sorry, one moment, Martin. Wait, says Gravedigger, are you saying I am absolutely right? No! You moron! No! Okay. Anyway, that I, in an interview, said that there was some kind of aliens in a temple or something. And I was just kind of like, what are you talking about? And so Martin sent me a clip of this. And now I know exactly what you're talking about. So there was, in God of War 1, one of the bonus materials was a movie about the Titan that had the Pandora's Temple on his back. And it was discovered in the desert thousands of years after the story of Kratos. And it was a bunch of military helicopters and jeeps and stuff rolling in around it because they had discovered it and they were going to go inside this temple that was what Kratos had gotten Pandora's box from. And it was like discovering this amazing thing. And that's what we were talking about. It was more of a, let's make a game in the future that's more about, kind of like a Stargate or something where the military goes in to this Pandora's temple.
Movie with the Egypt, they go.
As well. Yeah, but it was more. There was never a concept of aliens or anything. It was more about a modern take on God of War's environments told through the eyes of soldiers that go into this temple and realize, holy shit, all this shit was real. That's what it was about.
All right, so there's no alien at all.
I can write one in for you if you want, but I was never thought about aliens.
Cool.
No,
that would be cool.
I'll see what I can do.
Especially the one from Egypt.
Yeah. Well, there is a story. Like I said, there are people who believe, and I'm not saying there's a lot of them, but there are people who believe that the star that the wise men were following to Bethlehem was actually a UFO. So maybe that's what and that was in God of War 3. It was supposed to be, but it is what it is. All right, Martin. Thanks, bud.
All right, thank you. Hold up. I just wanted to say,
yeah, what's up?
Y'all talking about the Trump and Joe Biden and all that. Which one is right? Which one to go for? I say fuck both of them.
I would agree. The only problem with fucking both of them is that, if you at least think how I think, and not everybody does, and I respect that. I've already seen what Trump having carte blanche to put whoever he wants on the Supreme Court, which is his right as president. But I've seen the damage that has wrought from today to Roe v. Wade, and it's not a country that I'm a fan of when it comes to those things. So if for nothing else, I want to see the Supreme Court get less conservative. So I'm going to vote for Biden for that and other reasons, of course. And also, I think Trump's a fucking nightmare.
You got to vote for Joe Biden after seeing him, what he did yesterday?
Absolutely. Yeah.
He can't even walk.
I don't care.
All right, he's not even he's the president. I don't think he's the president.
I know, but what I'm saying is if you think I'm voting for Joe Biden because I think he is going to show up to work and just kick ass, I'm not voting for him because I think
he's not going to do a good job.
Well, I think ultimately at this point, most of his decisions are being made by his administration that he still has.
He's being used like a puppet.
Come on now. If that's the case, and it may be,
even Obama knew Trump was going to be president.
Okay, you're spouting shit you know nothing about.
But that's true. Even the Simpsons knew that.
I understand that. Do you know who was being used by Vice President George Bush and Chief of Staff James Baker? Ronald Reagan, which is how we got the Iran-Contra issue. Okay, they're all puppets. Yeah, they're all being used The idea that the president doesn't have to listen or isn't listening and his ear isn't owned by a number of other people or any politician is naive. Of course there are people in his ear. But what I'm saying is a Democratic administration, whether he is simply a figurehead at this point or he is still making the final decisions, or a man who might die the day before he gets inaugurated or reinstated or whatever, I'd still rather have Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. I don't want Donald Trump in the White House. I think we just got the curtains deloused. The carpets are finally clean of the corruption and the evil. And I would prefer him not to be there ever again. But, you know.
I said we got to just make a new person. We don't even need to trust them. They'd be lying to us saying there was no aliens. Now there's aliens.
They're always lying to us, man. We don't know. We don't know if there's aliens.
But we need to do it like that.
Yeah. Oh, well, that may be happening. We may be headed towards French Revolution style stuff sooner than later, which I hate.
Happened in the 1800s.
I hate. I don't want that. I want the world to be like it was when I grew up in the 80s and shit. I want people to have opportunities and have a good time and be good to each other and all this shit. I'm not saying it was perfect. It wasn't. But, you know, if you know, the one thing, look, the only thing that you can agree with Obama on, whether you love him or hate him, is he was right when he said, you know, no one's coming to save us. We're the ones that we were waiting for. We're the ones that have to wake up. We're the ones that every piece of energy, every unit of energy that you use to slam a moderate version of the other side. Now I get it. I'm not going to support Project 2025, and they might not support some of the far left stuff that AOC is about. But that's not most people on the left or the right. And any unit you use, even on the internet, is pushing us away from a much better future, and it's pushing us to that. And I'm sorry, it's tragic. I hate it. I fucking hate it. Martin, thank you, buddy, for calling. I appreciate it, man.
All right, thank you, Jeffrey.
See you, buddy. You're what is making U.S. unsafe for my family with no laws? Law and order and insane under. What are you talking about? Like, that's what I'm saying, man. I think you have it backwards. Hang on, let me get this call real quick. That's exactly what I'm talking about, though. This idea that certain people bring up to say, oh, that the left wants open borders. No, they don't. They want less restrictions, but than you guys might. But what a crazy idea. Do you really think most people who vote left or progressive want no checks at the border and anybody who wants at any time? I mean, that's what you're being sold. Just like you're being sold that the people on the left want abortions past 9 months or even up to 8 months. Again, that's called murder. But that said, it's just simply not accurate, man. It just is not accurate. So you can believe that it is, but I'm sorry, but it's a ridiculous talking point. And the sooner they didn't open, you can't say that, Johnny S. They literally opened the fucking borders. Okay, well, my guess is you don't know what the word literally means. The borders are not the gates at Disneyland. The borders are literally open physically in most parts of the country. It's not like, North Korea, where we've got landmines everywhere. It never has been that under any president. Okay? Has Biden come in and made adjustments to the policy that's made it easier for certain people to get in, and then once they get here, instead of keeping them somewhere, they are able to roam free in the country with very little checks and balances until they're supposed to show up for their hearings, and then they don't, a lot of them? Sure. And that's not good. But the idea that they literally opened all the it's just, why do you want to be that person? Don't you want to be somebody that has some nuanced thought? Don't you want to be somebody that genuinely is part of the solution and not just another one of these fucking easily led puppets for the right or the left that just spews talking points on the internet filled with vitriol and passion like you know something? People just want to have a good life, man. People just want people to be nice enough that they can have a good life with their kids and their family and chase after things they want while they're here. That's it. That's it. Fine. If you want to call in, I'll tell you what. Yeah, Winnipeg just wants to survive long enough to make their own video game, right? I agree. Debates don't make a difference. They don't make a difference. No, you don't have to earn a good life. You have to earn a life of financial wealth. It's unfortunate that it's so skewed in that way. But I'm not talking about that. But there's a difference between going, I want to have a mansion and a fancy car. Okay, well, you're going to have to sort of buy in to certain tenets of capitalism that, you know, let you sacrifice things in order to get those things. That's fine. But that's not a good life as it relates to just most people just are like, can I pay my fucking bills, man? Can I not be exploited all the time? Can I make sure if somebody in my family gets really sick that it doesn't wipe us out and we're on the fucking street? Frank Blasey says CNN fact-checking a debate in real time will only fuel the flames. Don't have it be CNN then. The idea that one news channel owns this, have it basically be CNN, Fox, like five, if the DNC and the Republic, National, whatever they're called, can get together and say, these are the polls that we care about to determine who is in the goddamn debate, then they can sure as fuck get together and say, these are the 8 fact-checking agencies that are going to be sitting off to the side, and if more than 2 of them have an issue, they hit a red button and it pauses the debate. You act like this is not a solvable thing? Anyway, Ravnos, I'm not going to bring you in. We've talked. I'm fried. Thank you for calling, buddy, and it was good to talk to you earlier. We can't have voter competency tests because who gets to write them? It's fundamentally un-American. All right. Here's the point, though. Gabbin' and Games is a show about games. Tomorrow I'll be back at 5 o'clock. I'll have more topics lined up. Let me bring in Dan just because he's new and he's been waiting. Today was free chat, but this is not... I don't do politics mostly. I really don't. You know where I stand. I don't do hate speech here. I don't permit it. I don't like it. I'll talk about it when it's free chat days, but this is not, I'd like to have some kind of respite from it. Not because you should avoid politics. They're important. They're very important. But there are times where I'm like, could I just not? But it's free chat, so whatever you need. Dan, it's Jaffe. What's going on?
Are you fucking kidding me?
I can hear you great. What's up?
Oh shit! I didn't realize I would get there. Okay.
Well, you clicked the button, right?
Yeah, I did, but I'm in Belgium, and you're David Jaffe, and there's like 1,000 people waiting.
There's nobody waiting. What do you need, buddy? What can I do for you?
Frankly, nothing. I just want to say, hey, how's it going? I listen to Sacred Simples. I know you from there. I know you from... I'm 42, so yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for
I knew from other shit before that, but like,
of course.
No, this whole fucking a lot more, right?
I do know a lot more. Yeah, I don't know him personally.
I'm from his neighborhood, let's say, in the world.
You're sorry, say it again?
I'm from his neighborhood in the world.
I'm sorry, you're dropping out. You're saying there's something about a neighborhood in the world?
Yes. So I'm from Brussels. Lockmort is from some, I don't know, whatever in the countryside. What I'm saying is, we love you, and whatever
God.
your political crap is going on, please stop.
I would love to, man. Just save a room for me there. Save a hotel room somewhere. I got to get out of here. If
Dude, you can stay in my fucking
Can I stay under the floorboards like the opening of Inglorious Bastards, please? But yeah, man, it's nuts.
Oh, please.
I fucking hate it. But I love that you called in. I love you listening to the shows, buddy. Thank you for that. What time is it where you are?
It is exactly 4:52, and I have to work in about 3 hours.
In the morning, it's 4:52.
Yes, in the morning, yeah.
What are you doing up?
Drinking quite a bit. It's not good. Not good for me. May I ask you a question, Mr. Jaffe?
Are you drinking because you're avoiding something in your life that brings pain, or what's the reason you're drinking so early?
I'm avoiding a lot of pain, indeed.
Or you could just be an alcoholic, in which case you don't need an excuse. You have a chemical dependency on alcohol, in which I say, I hope you get some help, because that sounds like an absolute monster to fight.
Frankly, it's both.
Okay.
But I am actually avoiding something. But may I ask you a question before you cut me off?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Seriously, are we gonna get another Twisted Metal, man? Because that shit was my fucking shit when I was a kid. I'm 42. I'm in Belgium, and my mom bought the CD back in the day of Twisted Metal, and she put it in a display case, and I had to succeed my exams to be able to play it.
That's amazing. Did you do it?
That's the first one.
It's still in the display case.
It's still.
They buried it with her. She's like, "Fuck it, you didn't pass, you dummy." Well, look.
Yeah, you know what? It's still there. No, I did, and my favorite character obviously was not Sweet Tooth. Fuck that guy. It was the one with the motorbike, and I will admit to you, I forget his name.
Mr. Grimm.
Mr. Grimm. Yes.
Yep. Love.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Grimm.
That was my favorite.
I'll tell you. I mean, I don't know if they have shown the Peacock Twisted Metal series in Belgium yet. Have you seen that?
No, we have to do that illegally.
Okay, so that is out.
And I haven't watched it yet, to be honest.
Good. It's very good. It does a lot of great fan service, and if you are a fan of it, it's a fun, really good show. And then they are doing a season 2. So here's what I think will happen with Twisted Metal. I think Twisted Metal, my understanding is they just canceled the game that they were actually making. I think the way we saw Twisted Metal as
they were making one, right?
Yeah, they canceled it. I think a proper Twisted Metal, like a straight up car combat game, unless Sony decides to get into really low budget swings for fences, I don't think you're going to see that from Sony. There are people making them. Like there was just a game that came out a couple of days ago on Steam that's basically a Twisted Metal fan game. But I think the show is fun. I think the IP still has a great deal of fuel in the tank, and I think Sony is going to continue after the show to exploit it. So I don't think we've seen the end of Sony putting out Twisted Metal content as it relates to the intellectual property. But I don't think you're going to see a straight up car combat game anymore. That's what I think. All right, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
It's a bit of a shame. It was a pleasure, Jaffe.
You as well, sir. Thank you for calling from Belgium.
I love you, dude.
All right, drive safe. Getting to work, man. You lush.
No. I'm at home. Don't worry. I can work from home.
All right, cool. Good. All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. Be safe.
Talk to you soon. Cheers, man.
All right. That's nice. What a nice fella. What a nice human being. Okay. All right. See, we end on video games. That brings us together. Aren't you tired of being mad at everybody? Maybe it's an age thing, man. Maybe it's an age thing. I'm just so fucking tired of everybody being so mad. And maybe they're not. Maybe you go on the internet too much, Jaffe. Could be. Anyway, fellas, that's Gabbing and Games for today. Be well, be safe. I'm back tomorrow at 5:00. I'll hit the Discord as well as the Twitter tomorrow in order to see What are you guys into tomorrow? What kind of game news you want to talk about tomorrow? Don't forget, play the Capcom demo that just dropped today. It's on all the systems. I don't know if it's on Switch, but it's on everything else. It's pretty good. It's really weird in the sense that it's not like an action game. It looks like almost like a low budget C team. Not to say it's a poor game, but it looks like it's like, hey, these are our newest employees. Let's let them try something. And they made it, and it's like, that's pretty good, actually. I don't think it's going to be a big hit. Might be a nice cult hit. It's going to be day one Game Pass. I've enjoyed what I've played so far. It's solid. It's not the next Devil May Cry or Onimusha or anything like that, but there's a demo out. Give it a play. And if there's any game news you want to talk about tomorrow, like I said, track me on Twitter or here on Discord and let me know tomorrow when I send out a tweet so I can make sure if it's compelling to cover it. The last thing I will tell you before I go is consider subscribing. Doesn't cost you any money. Helps the channel. Consider liking. If you like it. If you don't like it, go fuck yourself and tell me why it's bad and I'll fix it if I can. Consider a membership. A lot of good stuff happening over at the membership. We got John Garvin interview just went up yesterday. We got an I Love the Weird went up Saturday. There's a new series called War Stories where I cover all kinds of old school PlayStation stories. And other things as well. That you can sign up on Patreon. I'd recommend that if you like the podcast more. If you like the videos and chatting live more, I recommend it on here on the YouTube because they have a little bit of, there's mostly parody, but there's a little bit of difference. Anyway, in the meantime, thank you guys. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everybody. Good to see you guys. And I shall discuss I don't fucking know how I'm going out with this show. I'm so tired. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me. That's how I did it. I've decided it was that. Be well. Knuckleheads. See you soon. Where's this picture?